Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'm here with Ash. How you doing, Ash?
Hey, Perch, good to be with you again.
It's been a little while, but I'm really glad that you're here. And oh my goodness, we got some people in the chat, and we have. Oh no, we're going right in here. Sean Murphy in the chat, compromising photos of Perch. No, why? No, I promise. I promise. There are no photos of that.
Now it's all making sense.
Yeah, this is where it all comes. Yeah, no compromising photos of Perch here tonight. It's nice to all the regulars here. It's hard to believe it's Friday. I don't know. Did this week fly by for you, or is it just me?
Yeah, no, it flew by for me too. It's weird how that kind of works for everybody.
This was such a strange. I mean, the inauguration was this week, right?
Yeah.
I seem to remember some people excited about that like 2 days ago, but it feels like it's been 2 months since then. I don't know what is going on there. Anyway, well, thanks again for joining me here, and we're in the start of a new year, so happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well. Hopefully, we're on an upswing.
Yeah, it's got to be better. This year has to be better.
Knock on wood. It's got to be better. Nervous. I feel like when you're like getting on the roller coaster and you're like, did I do the right thing?
Oh yeah. Will January wrap up? It is. I mean, I think the full impact of everything will happen last year, especially where comics are concerned. I think we're at least a couple months before fully being able to process everything that changed and went down. You have background noise. I've been there every time.
That's my alarm to remind me to be on your chat, so I wasn't late.
Excellent. Yeah.
And I just snoozed it from before. I didn't turn it off like an idiot, so I'm sorry about that, guys.
Yes. No. Oh, no worries. I have the habit of I've got multiple computers always going on, and one of them is I forget to mute, and so it's shooting out email alerts and everything else. I look like a complete tool. So always fun. But thank you for everybody who's joining the chat. Like I said, been a crazy week. If we caught reading manga, I have no problems being caught reading manga. Do you now? I forget, Ash. You don't read manga, is that right? Or are you a manga?
I have not read manga in a while. I'm not a big manga person. I'm not opposed to manga by any means.
Yeah.
I'm just more of a comics guy. And if a certain manga draws me, I'll read it. But my real problem with manga is more that I'm just so backlogged in comics. I just squeezing that time in. That's all really it is.
Well, that's going to do it for you. I mean, stuff like even My Hero Academia, which is relatively new. I mean, it's daunting to get started. I was recommending it to somebody, and so I went to the bookstore all excited to do it, and there were like 37 volumes on the shelf, and it's like I turned right around. I was done at that point.
That's a perfect example for me.
Yeah,
My Hero Academia is something I love, and I want to read it. And I can remember when there was like 6 issues out, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome! I'm gonna get right to these." And then I turned around, and next thing I know, there's like 30 something issues. And it just piles up, and you're like, "Oh geez!" And now I'm just like I'm under a mountain, and I have so many comics that I haven't read that I bought, and I'm like,
yeah,
one day.
Well, you feel stupid too. I mean, I don't know about you, but I when you pile up so much. And then you at some point you stop and you're like, why are all the comics that I bought from the shop still in a bag? Why is it, for me, I would bring home comics to read. And I'm like, I need to get these, ultimately turn around or graded or whatever it happens to be. And it's like the pile just keeps growing. And I mean, to me, that was ultimately what pushed me to doing a lot with digital, because it's like I can carry my tablet everywhere and then I can kind of fit those moments in. But you always, like, have you ever had the thing? I knew of somebody who would buy DVDs. They always would buy every movie for all the stuff they loved. And then at one point they looked at their shelf and 3/4 of it was still in the plastic wrap. They'd just never taken it out, but they were collecting it. Does that ring true for you or anybody in the chat right now?
Pardon me. No.
Okay, good.
I'm kind of the opposite, actually. I read most of my comics, almost, I'd say 99% of my comics on my tablet. I buy them physically. And then I just get digital backups and I read on my tablet. And I buy them, I immediately go in a bag, I file them in a box.
Yeah.
And the problem is they go out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before I started reading digitally, I'd have a reading pile stack. and they'd be right there, and I'd be like, oh, look, there's the new, let's say, X-Men. Oh, I gotta read that. Like it would draw me in. But now it's like I got it filed away. It's in a box. I don't see it. Something else, ooh, shiny, draws my attention. And next thing I know, I'm going through oh man, geez, I've got 5 issues of this that I haven't read yet.
Oh, sure. No, and it's tough when you read amazing things. I mean, this week, I think I've read some of my, just some amazing stuff this week, just absolutely great stuff this week. Today was definitely, or yesterday, I take it back. Yesterday afternoon, I read some amazing stuff, but it does pile up on you, for sure. But somebody asked, so is My Hero Academia this generation's X-Men? It's feeling like it. Like My Hero Academia, example, it's growing fast. And it is pretty insane.
I'll tell you what, it actually feels more like X-Men than real X-Men does.
It does today. Yeah. I mean, My Hero Academia definitely has that kind of 80s Claremont vibe to it.
I mean, they're students at a school learning how to be heroes. They're really not supposed to be, but things keep coming up that they have to get involved in. They're supposed to let the real heroes do stuff, but just like the X-Men did, the Avengers weren't around, villains are storming, or I guess we got to do stuff. It really does. That's a good, whoever said that. That's a great example.
It is, and it's. I mean, so much is in that franchise, and we haven't even really seen the beginning of it. I'm anxious to get back. Obviously, didn't get to Japan much last year. I think right at the beginning of the year. I don't recall last time I was over there, but I'm anxious to go back because it's the growth of that brand. You just start seeing it more places at the JR station, at the various places in Akihabara. You'd see all this stuff, and I'm anxious to see how it's grown. But because One Piece dominated the kind of the cultural landscape over there for quite a while, but My Hero Academia is growing like crazy. But
yeah, it does. The one difficult thing about manga for me is that it's so linear and so like a saga. You really want to start at the beginning. It's not really I mean, you can, I guess, pick it up. You could just jump into My Hero Academia like issue 20 if you but you're really going to be best suited if you start that journey at the beginning, and you're going to follow Deku through his growth and everything. If you're a fan, you're going to want to do that. But the problem is that makes it really daunting. When I dived into X-Men back in the 80s, I jumped in on issue 210. I didn't need to be like, oh, I got to go back to issue 1. I didn't feel this weight of like, oh my God. I could just dive in and start my journey, and it worked. And I could go backwards and fill out that stuff, which I did. But manga doesn't really think that way. The mindset isn't. And some people don't care. Some people are like, and you can, because they stay in print. So it's not like you have, I had to jump in to issue 210 because the rest of the issues weren't in print. But manga is like, no, here's number 1. It's always available for you. But it's that psychology of like, oh, look at that pile I have to go through. Even though I want to do it, it's still daunting.
Now, Joe points out, and he's correct, there are lots of one and done mangas, especially if you're wanting a genre outside of superheroes. There's a lot of good horror stuff. There's some good sports, of all things, manga. So there are a lot there, but they are definitely not the ones that are super hyped. I think those like My Hero Academia, probably Demon Slayer and One Piece and those kinds of books. It is, and it would be very like I was trying to imagine with One Piece, if you just started at the Marineford arc and you just picked up there and started reading, it's an incredible arc, but so much of the impact of that arc would be gone if you hadn't read everything that had come before it. And that's tough.
Yeah, and you know what? The irony, Joe, is that I love the big saga. One of the things I loved about X-Men was Chris Claremont was doing really what no one else was doing, this massive, gigantic saga of the mutants. Like, I loved that, and I love that about My Hero Academia. So I don't really want the one and done stuff. It's just that double-edged sword of like, and again, I really look forward to getting to My Hero Academia. I want to power through all my other stuff. Plus, I read normal books, not just comics. So there's just so much media to consume and not enough time to do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll get into drinks here in a second. A real quick question. I'm curious, how would NPCs relate? Well, NPCs don't buy anything anyway. Those are not real people. But how would people react to classic Jonah Hex and the Vertigo version? I mean, not well. It's funny. So many comics. Maybe it's a good thing that comics go out of print in some cases, because a lot of the stuff ages so crazily. A lot of those ideals would clash completely. I don't know. What do you have you read a lot of classic Jonah Hex?
I can't speak on Jonah Hex, unfortunately.
Yeah. It would not age well to current social sensibilities, I think, is the best answer to that, probably. Anyway, yeah, cooking manga is interesting. Yeah, there's cooking. My daughters are watching a show called What Sells at Work. And this concept of this manga, this is anime. This is not manga. Maybe there's a manga out there, probably. But the concept is that like their cells in the body are trying to fight the diseases and things that come in, but they've all got different personalities. And like the white blood cells are like crazy marine killers. And it's like, it's the most insane thing you've ever seen. And maybe this is teaching them biology. I have no idea. But anyway, it doesn't go well. But I'm curious. So I'm drinking a very silly drink right now. And then we want to find out what books you're reading at the moment, Ash. But I'm drinking this key lime rum. Now, this is like drinking a dessert, but this is what I'm doing right now. What are you having anything to drink tonight? Oh, no, he may have. Ash, are you still with us? Uh-oh. Okay, maybe it's just me. Now maybe I'm the one who left. We'll see. Ash may be gone. Okay, people can still hear me. I always wonder, sometimes the network goes out. My kid decided at this point they're going to just download absolutely everything. But we'll get back to what books Ash is reading at the moment. But I'm drinking this stuff. This is absolutely just dessert drink. It's very nice, very smooth. It does not taste like rum. It tastes like I'm drinking a key lime pie probably, and this is just a crazy amount of nonsense. But to the point, cells at work. Yeah, it is relatively scientifically accurate, other than the personalities of the different blood cells and other things are quite insane. But it is it may be teaching them something. I have no idea. Hey, here's somebody want to say thank you for the idea of doing a recap. Oh, Ash just dropped out, so he'll be back. I even gained a follower. Okay, hopefully you can gain more of that. Keep it up, do more. Yes, please do recaps. I think that's a very smart idea. Do that, get it out there. It is good to keep people up. I think always assume that people are not following along as best as you think. I think that is always smart. But we got Ash back here. Hey Ash, how you doing?
How about now?
There you go. You're back. Was it me? Was it you?
I think it was a StreamYard, I think, but
it's StreamYard. It's a flaky system. What can we say? There's a question. What comics are you reading? What are you reading at the moment?
Oh, I was in the middle of trying to type that out before all this happened. I'm reading a lot of indies at the moment. I read books like Ascender, Oblivion Song, Firepower, Decorum. Oh, nice. I'm reading Birthright is coming back off a hiatus.
Yep.
I love that book so much. What other books? I just really got into Ed Brubaker. In fact, I'm now doing a show based purely on Ed Brubaker. Right. And so I read Reckless. I recently read Pulp. Now Brubaker doesn't do ongoing books anymore. So, and in fact, I believe he's, as of with Reckless, he's just not even doing floppies anymore. He's just going straight to the graphic novels.
Yep.
Which once upon a time I would have been like, boo, but with the state of the industry and things I'm like, I kind of like this now. I think so I picked up Reckless. I can't hype up Ed Brubaker enough. Reckless, criminal series. That's what I'm really into. And I read a couple of Marvels. I read Thor, and I read Venom, and I read Daredevil. And I'm really sad because I heard Donnie Cates is leaving Venom, and I'm like,
well, Donnie Cates we'll get to that. So Donnie Cates has announced that Venom 200 will be his last Venom book. And the wording there is a little suspect. Feels a little bit like when somebody's in court trying to get out of saying that murder when they didn't do a murder. I think there's a trick in there. I don't think the title is going through a major status quo change after 200. It's going to get rebooted or relaunched or something. It could get relaunched as, Space Venom, and then Donnie Cates is on it, and it's like, see, I told you I wasn't writing Venom anymore. This is Space Venom. It has that feel to it. I am not buying that this is truly the end, but maybe.
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts a little bit more in detail on that. Because I mean, the only reason I read Venom at all is Donnie Cates. I am not a Venom fan previously, other than when he was a villain back in the day in the Todd McFarlane era.
Yep.
I liked that, but I never liked Lethal Protector stuff. I was just, so I was like, whatever. Go on. It's not for me. You guys enjoy it. Move on. And when everyone's like, you got to read New Venom, Ash. I mean, 12 issues in, I finally was like, all right, I'll try this. And I was like, oh, wow. I really like
Venom Who Laughs. We're getting the Venom Who Laughs coming, or Venom with Hellcat.
Yeah, that's my big problem. Is like once he leaves the book, who do they put on it? Like,
well, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I wish I could have the faith of the old days. Like when Chris Claremont left X-Men, that was a big day for me. Like I was a massive Chris Claremont X-Men fan. He left. I was like, now what am I going to do? But I didn't have that sense of dread because I was like, oh, well, Scott Lobdell's going to pick it up. Okay, Scott Lobdell's okay. Oh, John Burns taking over Uncanny. Oh, okay. That's like you just felt like you were still in good hands. Maybe not quite as good, but it's like when Jordan left the Bulls, they still had Scottie Pippen, like,
yeah, sure.
All right, maybe, nowadays it's like, who's going to take over? Please don't put Jerry Dugan or something, like what's going to happen?
Venom the Duck. Somebody's asking about Agent Venom. Did you read Agent Venom at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not a Venom guy. So it took 12 issues of Donnie Cates' Venom just to even get me to try it, and everyone freaking out how good it was, and reading the previous stuff like Thanos Wins to go, okay, this is a good writer. I'm willing to give it a try, and I did, and I was pleasantly surprised. And like I said, if I had faith that there was another decent writer out there that was going to capitalize on what Donnie Cates did, I would feel better. And it's like, okay, but I don't know. I don't want to see Venom Hellcat. Oh God,
Venom Hellcat. I like that. So yeah. So Joe, who we've got to do, we're going to have to do another bad pitches. We should have gotten to it this week, but yeah, Squirrel Girl gets a symbiote, takes over an endless amount of squirrels over on the world, but it's cute or something. Yeah, it fits. There you go.
Your guys' pitch show is really funny, by the way.
We're going to keep doing those until somebody tells us to stop. That's I think the plan. How terrible is Starbucks coffee? Pretty terrible, I think. I mean, it's convenient. That's the thing, but it's burnt. That's what always drives me crazy. I like if I can get to another place, but then I don't like the whole performance of coffee. Like what I like about Starbucks is that you get your coffee and you leave. And if I go to a nice independent coffee shop, they're giving me like a much nicer thing of coffee, but then I'm fighting with them whether they're putting it in like a to-go cup or some kind of ceramic mug, and they're making a design out of the foam, and it's all very cute and artistic, but like I came in for coffee, just let me leave. Sorry, that was a very
my theory on Starbucks is don't go there for coffee, go there for a dessert drink.
Yeah,
I will take a 7-Eleven original blend coffee over Starbucks coffee any day.
They burn the hell out of their coffee. That's what gets me.
And you'd be surprised how good 7-Eleven coffee can be.
Yeah. I feel bad for people who just drank Starbucks and nothing else. It's you don't realize that coffee cannot taste like ass. It's true.
And not cost $5.
Yeah. Dominic, I got his question wrong. So he was asking you actually, Ash, what actual books were you reading? Not comic books. What real books? Real books. Comics are real. So that's not fair.
I am reading through an epic, monstrous series right now. What is it called? The Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. First book is called The Way of Kings, and each book is over 1,000 pages. They're ginormous. It took me many years to actually finally start reading these because they were so daunting. And I'm a big Brandon Sanderson fan, and I am in love. I'm on the 3rd book. I'm almost done. And then I can jump on the 4th book, which came out in November. I was really hoping to finish it by then, but I'm too backlogged. Anyways, if you like at all epic fantasy and you like heroes, like real heroes,
yeah,
being heroic, self-sacrifice, going on the hero's journey, like Luke Skywalker once did, that sort of thing. Having to deal with hard times and overcome extremely difficult challenges and things like that. And not just like challenges like they're having to beat up something really tough, but challenges in their own lives and and their own self-worth and things like that. This book is amazing. It brings back everything that I love about Star Wars. In fact, I could go on. We could have a whole show on this book. It has so many similarities to Star Wars in the fact that there's characters that have a super like powers like Jedi do. They wield kind of these mystical swords, almost like lightsabers, but they're not lightsabers. It's fantasy. It's not sci-fi. But some of these similarities on light and dark, and they're very subtle, and it doesn't feel like it's a carbon copy, but it is like, hey, I like those elements. I love this series. I'm at the end. I'm in the end part of the last book, and like it has those stand up and cheer moments. I don't know if you've ever done this where you're reading a book where you're just like, you just do the fist pump. You're like, yes, and when it elicits that sort of emotional reaction that you're like literally cheering out loud for the characters, that the writer's doing something good.
Yeah, I completely. It's been a long time since I've been reading I've been reading boring old man nonfiction lately. So books are terrible. But anyway, no, you do know. I was joking. Dominic asked the question. Fine. I was more making fun of myself though. There you go. Anyway, somehow we got into a conversation about a lot of coffee. There is a lot of good coffee. I will say to people, there used to be nothing that I enjoyed better than leaving the shop, taking a graphic novel or two with me, going to a coffee shop that's a couple doors down. Ladro in Seattle used to be very good for this. Nice, cozy places, spending an hour there, fireplace going, drinking coffee, reading books. That was a great time. But oh well, those days are done now.
That sucks.
Sadly, it's all over. Hey, so here is the sadness that has become the comics coming out next week list. I have to break it into 3 pages. So in order to make now part of it's my laziness. I can squeeze 2 columns in if I take out all who the covers are from and all this kind of nonsense. But old man nonfiction by Perch. So I've been leaning into the old man stuff too much lately. I don't feel old, but I don't know. Too many people are like, wait, you want a comic store at the beginning of the 90s? Like you're like 80. It's like, oh, okay, stop. just stop with that. But anyway, here we go. We have page 1 of 3. Anything on this page? Anything on this page for you, Ash?
It would have been Usagi Yojimbo if IDW didn't decide that they were going to just recycle it to a new number 1. They took their color classics and they stopped it after number 7 and started it back on number 1 when there was like a new story arc. And I was like, are you going to really pull this crap? Yeah. I was like, I'm done. This is already a reprint book that you're charging $4 for. So I was a little annoyed. But if you've never read Usagi Yojimbo, and like, see, the problem is I have these books anyway. So they're I don't want to, I feel cringy like saying bad because they're great. I mean, Saga Jumbo is amazing. So I was just a little annoyed what IDW was doing for me personally, but I highly recommend that book otherwise. Nothing else I see.
I absolutely. Hey, I'm just being I've not had much rum, but here I am making stupid things. So I put hire Jim. No, hire Joe. So put Joe Corallo on Legion of Superheroes like immediately and get that going. Like start that right now. Like why? And then save some money so you can get City of Bruce. That's all I'm saying. We've got to get City of Bruce out there. That is the comic of our generation. It is so page 2. Okay, we're getting into DC. Mad Cave is putting out some good books right now, and I'm not just saying that because Joe is in the chat here, but Mad Cave has some good books. I'll take them and AWA and just market them for no apparent reason, confuse them why somebody's doing marketing for those comics. But more Future State. We've got another 6 books for Future State out next week. How are you reading any Future State?
Yes, I am reading some of the issues for the channel because it seems like there's nothing to talk about otherwise. There's no DC to talk about unless you read some of the Future State. I'm underwhelmed. Actually, I'm surprisingly, Well, I don't know if I'm that surprised, but I read the Dark Detective. I did a video on Dark Detective and the new Batman, and the ultimate. You can watch those videos if you guys care, but my ultimate points that I was like, wow, the backup stories are better than the main stories, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a real problem. And I think it was the new Batman, the one that was $7.99. I was like, oh god, no one's buying $7.99 for this drama of Batman with his brother and the kid in the hospital, and like it was nonsense. But then you read and they have like a really good outsider story.
Yeah, the outsider story is great.
Yeah. But the art in that, like that's an up and coming artist to look out for. I mean, I think they're still kind of raw, but maybe in 5 years they might be one of the. There were some things that I cover in my video that I was like, wow, this is something to look out at. And then the story at the end, I think it was Paul Jenkins did a story about Arkham Knight that I totally unexpected. I was like, oh, Arkham Knight, she's back, and I was like, there's a comic in this. DC might actually be able to launch a series that I would be more interested than in Suicide Squad.
I thought that was it was an interesting take. I would definitely like to see a limited series.
Really impressed, but I wouldn't have bought the book for those because they're not on the cover. You have no idea. You're buying it for the Batman, and the Batman is underwhelming.
It is. No, I'm with you. Next week we do get the issue 4 of Harley Quinn. I think Sean Murphy's probably left the chat at this point, but that Harley Quinn spinoff is quite good. If you've been missing it because it's not part of the regular series, I've been really enjoying that.
Funny
Harley
you should mention that. That's the only DC book on my pull list.
Oh, well, there you go. It's a good story. Really solid.
It is. I was surprised. I wasn't going to get it because I hate Harley Quinn.
Yeah,
but I gave it a chance due to some recommendations of other people, and I liked what Sean Gordon Murphy did with Harley Quinn in his White Knight series. He answered the fundamental problem that I have with Harley Quinn is, you have the animated series Harley Quinn, and then you have the new DC weirdo character that doesn't make any sense. And you're like, wait, how did that Harley Quinn become this Harley Quinn? I don't get it. And then in White Knight, he creatively answers that question, and it's so satisfactory, and it lets fans of either one have their cake and eat it too. And it also lets people like me who hate one or the other have their cake and eat it. I was like, this is why Sean is the guy that he is, and so many other creators are wanting, because he's able to do this. And I was like, you took a character that I hated, and now I'm buying a book with her name on the cover.
No, I think it's great. His wife's doing a really good job in that book. Mateo is great on art, and I think it's great. And this comment, it's a very good detective drama. It is clever, and that is not. I don't know. It is. I thought the solution for Harley Quinn and everything they've done there was very, very clever, and I like it. I think they're doing a great job. Horizon Brave points out this is a neat part. I like this. I will say I like this about Future State. There is heavy disagreement, but it doesn't feel like the old typical angry disagreement. It's not like people are going to war over great books or trash books. There are very different opinions on what people like and dislike about Future State. And I every time I do one of these videos, I say these are ones I like better, and there's quite a few people who like the exact opposite. But it feels more normal. I don't know. I'm curious about how Future State rolls out, but it definitely seems to be different books are appealing to different people in big ways, and I've been surprised by that.
Sure. And you know what? Just because I say that the story is not very good doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy it. Right. I mean, everything's going to appeal to people in different ways. Some people like bird watching. I can't stand it. I can't stand sitting at a bench, binoculars, looking at birds. But I also don't get the people that do have something inside them that they understand that I don't, that it means something to them. And so maybe you're reading this Batman book and you're seeing something in there that I don't relate to, that you do. And you're like, oh, this speaks to me. That's fine. I do a video where I try to outline what the problems are and the fundamental storytelling and maybe the art or the reasons why. Part of the reason I gave negative reviews on those books too were $7.99. It's $7.99. If that book was $2.99 for the 20 pages of Batman, I would have gave it a positive review. It's not a terrible book. I'm not saying it's terrible, but DC has no business charging $7.99 for it.
It's tough. It's a tough, especially when some of those stories that you're getting in there are not ones that you signed up for. You came for one part of it, and you're being charged for some of this other stuff. I do notice next week most of the titles are $3.99. There's 2 $5.99 books in there, but it's that's a tough one to go with. But I do like how there's very different points of view on Future State. Future State's been a weird mix. I think there were a lot of fear coming into it. I think the books haven't lived up to the fears a lot of people have. I think they haven't been as terrible as a lot of people expecting, but they haven't been blow people away either in a lot of cases. It's been a very strange middle ground. This is not Convergence. It's something else that's going on.
Yeah, maybe. I never read Convergence, but I also say one of the other books I read was Wonder Woman. I do not like Yara Flor.
Yeah. See, and that character is working for a lot of people. It's the butt, but no, I'm just kidding. There's people who are there. She just felt very, well, number one, she's not a hero, and she just felt so derivative of like me, look at me, how awesome I am. And oops, I stumble around a lot because that's cute, and I got my cute sidekick, and then I messed up. Let me steal some money from this guy so I can fix it. And I was like, and then at the end, you're like, what? Anyway, sorry. I know someone probably loves the book. The art, Joelle Jones' art was very beautiful to look at. Oh yeah, she's a great artist.
So.
Yeah. Anyway, so thanks. I'll get to this. What of my manga? I've read so much. I mean, I've read through all the Rumiko Takahashi stuff. I've read through. I consume a lot of it. I'm reading Demon Slayer now. I don't know. I mean, what haven't I read? I think is probably the better answer to this question.
Where do you find time? You must be a super fast reader. You read so much stuff.
I do read fast, and I think I don't enjoy stuff as much as a result. But I also sleep very, very little. That's a secret. I get very, very little sleep. So there you go. It's at the cost of my life. So people ask, hey, so by the way, thank you for coming to this. Got about 120 people in here right now. It's awesome. Thanks for coming to the Friday chat. We do this every Friday, and it's very casual. So if you're new to this, I just run through some stuff. We look at what's going on in comics, have a kind of casual chat. Last week, I think Jeffrey Soren said it really well. He said this reminds him of going to a comic shop and just chatting in the shop. And that's really kind of the vibe I try and do here. I joke, I don't do a good job scheduling these things. It is very last minute because I'm busy, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's Friday. I am that guy. So I don't do a good job inviting guests on. Always looking for people to come on and join. If you're interested, shoot me an email. That'd be great. And we can figure something out. And I'm looking to get more people on. A lot of people have asked about Zach, if Zach would come on the show or not. I always feel like super goofy, and there's some people in the chat who can confirm this. I always feel super goofy of approaching somebody going, hey, would you come on the show? I always feel like I'm being the biggest douche when I do that. So I kind of wait to see if people have interest first, and that's more or less what's going on. It's this is not a high produced thought through show. I hate to break it to people, but am I drinking tonight? I absolutely am. It's that rum key lime stuff that was bothering people because it stayed on the stream too long.
Yeah, that's why I was muted when I was trying to comment on your rum. And
yeah,
I was like, man, it looks so good.
It's good.
I love key lime, and I'm like, add rum to it. Sounds like a win.
Yeah, it is. It is very, very good. Yeah, make a numbers presentation, and Zach will come. Maybe so. I'm going to show some things in a minute. I'm leading up to my 2019 event, which is going to blow your minds. You'll see. We'll get it there. Make an unstoppable wasp sales video. It wouldn't be a very entertaining video. I hate to tell you. I can put that up, but like the sales were under 4,000 at one point for this book. It's scary.
I want to see the Moon Girl sales video.
Yeah, Moon Girl's. I will do Moon Girl because it has low sales with weird spikes. But then when you throw in, that's the one title that you can go, hey, look at the trades. and that's actually a pretty entertaining picture because it does well, and it's clear evidence that some books, some content work really well for certain audiences, but maybe don't sell them in a comic shop because the audience is not there.
When every library in America buys one.
Go figure. It has legit sales that it's gotten through. It is its success. Moon Girl, you slot it up against Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl, which were hyped as doing much better, but Moon Girl has a far better, like you trend it on Amazon, Moon Girl hangs in there where those others all die out. It's crazy. Anyway, so crazy stuff. I have not won Ash over with that argument at all. So.
No. I think you have a lot of logic there. I was just in my mind imagining. I think Moon Girl probably does what it does, if I had to speculate, because moms can walk through the Barnes and Noble and they can look at the cover and go, "Oh, my daughter would like this," and they pick it up.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's why you have a cover, is to elicit sales. But the floppies, that book is really subsidized. Perch, come on. Sometimes it doesn't even make the list of the top 300 comic sales because it's so down. It's not even on the list.
It does. It absolutely. But then you're selling it in the direct market to a comic shop that spent the last 30 years trying to get an older audience. Like that'd be a terrible place to sell a comic like that. But if you're trying to crack like kids market, it's like, hey, here's a girl and she's got some sciencey stuff and there's a giant dinosaur in there. Like that's do that. I mean,
all right, this is a topic for conversation. I don't want to derail whatever you have planned, but I'm at some point, like, comic shops, you're right, they target older audience, but those older audiences often have kids of their own.
They do, right?
Or they have nieces and nephews and things. Like I used to buy Flash every other week for my friend's daughter, who was a Flash fan. She's 11 now. She liked Flash, and I was like, "Here you go." I was buy them, for her. She liked them, and I was happy to do it. Spread the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel should be making Moon Girl and other comics, not necessarily for the 40-something-year-old guy like me going in the store,
right?
But for the nieces and nephews and sons and daughters of guys like me, that I go, "Oh, they would love this book." I am constantly on the alert for books that I go, "Oh yeah, I want to get the kids. They'll love this." But I would never pick up a Moon Girl for a kid. I would be like, "No, don't read that."
See, I think there's one massive hitch in selling Moon Girl. So I think what you're saying, again, from my shop, I always had some comics there, and always strategically placed near the register that are kid based for exactly this reason. It's like, you're going to go home, take something to the kids, and here it is. But the trick was, nobody will pay $4.99 for that book for their kid. Their kid is the price point is going to be $1. And if you want to sell and push this stuff through, it will totally go, including Moon Girl. I mean, dinosaurs and kids is going to work. But if you're sitting there and it's a thin floppy, and the person holding that comic is aware that they're buying it for a collector or whatever it happens to be, they've got in their heads $4.99 is what they're just going to have to pay. But they will immediately balk at the idea of spending that same amount of money on a book that the kid is probably going to cut up with scissors and glue pictures onto cardboard to make a spaceship. That is.
No, you're exactly right. Wasn't it you? I think I was watching a show of yours in the past where you talked about buying really expensive liquor and then your wife drinking it. And not that you had a problem with her drinking it, but you're like, if she doesn't appreciate it, what's the point? Like, I could get her something less that she'll like just as much. Marvel should be doing that with say Moon Girl.
Yes.
Put these stories on newsprint, because kids don't care that the book is on super quality newsprint's fine. They like coloring books,
Yeah, absolutely.
Heck, you could make comic coloring books.
Well, I mean, that would be super, super cheap. There are some, but not as many. Not as many as you'd think, considering how easy it would be to go. But I mean, I read Moon Girl. It's fine. I think it fits the audience just fine. But at $3.99 or $4.99 a pop, that's a no-go. It is at that age. You put it out $1, make it even a loss leader, and get those kids in, start getting them away from where they're going now, which is Scholastic and all this stuff. I mean, it's a price issue to me, but anyway, yeah, crazy. Here, page 3 of 3. We're to Marvel. So how about this? Anything Marvel on your list there, Ash?
We skipped DC.
No. We didn't. We a Future State. It was there.
Oh yeah, we did.
Harley Quinn.
I was just gonna make a comment about DC that there was a lot of Batman, but I think that's a given.
Well, sure.
Marvel. Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There you go. A couple X-Men books. I think this is X-Men 17. Is this the first one with Brett Booth? I think it is.
Oh, is he going on the main X-Men book? I thought he was just doing.
He is.
He's X-Men Legends.
I believe 2 issues on the main X-Men book.
Wow.
There's some, I don't know, a couple of sites are boycotting doing any reviews for it as a result. Which
oh my goodness,
that's a very stupid way.
Okay, so here's the thing. I like Brett Booth a lot. I think he's a great artist. I've been begging DC to do a Wildcats book with Brett Booth art. I think it's a match made in heaven. And I don't understand. They were going to do it once upon a time with Humberto. Was it Ramon? I don't even remember his name. The guy who did Border Town art. I was like, what do you do? A Wildcats book with Border Town art? What are you?
Oh, that'd be weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I've been saying Brett Booth, perfect. Just do it. Like, please get Brandon Choi out. I don't know what he's doing. He's probably doing nothing. I would buy it, but that's just me being a fanboy. So now they're doing X-Men, and I think I'd be like, oh, exciting. The problem is I can't stand Hickman's X-Men. Like I have a visceral reaction of hatred for this book. Other books I go, it's a dumb book. It's written terribly. It's boring. It's cringy or whatever. But Hickman's book, I hate. And I'm not an anti-Hickman guy. I just told people earlier, I read Decorum. In fact, I just completed buying all of the Hickman Fantastic Four run. I like Jonathan Hickman. Whatever he's doing on X-Men, I cannot explain. To me, it is awful. Awful. I dipped out. I gave it 6 issues. I bought first 6 issues, and I'm like, I'm going to stick with this because House of X and Powers X is so good. And I guess I can't do this anymore, and I stopped. And then this campaign to get Brett Booth X-Men, I was like, this will suck because I want Brett Booth to do X-Men, but I don't want him to do an X-Men art on a book that I hate. It's like that's wasted. And so now I'm of 2 worlds. And then fast forward, the irony of this is, so you have me who hates the X-Men because of the writing, doesn't want to get the book, Brett Booth. And then you've got the people who like the X-Men books, and they don't want to get the X-Men books because it's got Brett Booth. And it's like, Marvel, you need to understand how to, like, what audience you're targeting. You can't be alienating both audiences. It seems weird to me.
I think if your job, if your gimmick or your job or your mission and your mandate is that you're going to review comic books, then when somebody comes on the comic book you don't particularly like, you review it anyway, because that's being a professional and doing your job, as I did for Ten of Swords. that had nothing to do with the creators. But your comment, should somebody be punished for Ten of Swords? I mean, it was me. I was the one who was punished. No, I'm there were some people who really liked that series and then they enjoyed it, and good for. I'm glad. I'm glad that that people like that show. Okay, so I made a comment, by the way, and Breen is another guy I desperately need to reach out. I'd love to do this with him as well some Friday night. I said JSA is not aging well. It's the stories. Here's my logic here, and I'll try and say it just very, very quickly. I liked the JSA when I read it in the time, if I'm thinking about 2000 to kind of 2005, in kind of that whole run. And then I've gone back and I've read it again recently, and I found it a lot more simplistic than I remembered. Just a lot more simple. So, that's what I mean by not aging well. I'll still take it. I think they're good stories, and I think the JSA as a concept is great. I'm talking about the comics. I think the comics haven't. I just had much better memories of those than they turned out. So I don't know. Did you read the JSA much, Ash?
No, but it's like the number one thing on my wish list to read, and you just took the wind out of my sails.
No. I mean, I think
I'm kidding.
I don't know.
I mean, I do want to read it, but I am a little bummed that I was like, because everyone I know loves it. They're like, this is the great run, and I'm like, oh yeah. No, you don't.
I'm losing all my audience right here, but
no,
it's I don't know. It's weird how that happened. You pick up comics, like I said, I'm going back and I'm relooking at the Doom Patrol right now, the Grant Morrison run, and I'm finding I enjoy that a lot. It's like really, really rewarding. I'm enjoying that. I read as you heard from the retrospective, we did the Grant Morrison New X-Men run, and I remember I remember thinking that was pretty good stuff. And then when I went back and read it, it's like, oh, this has some really clunky parts to it. It's weird how that works. Anyway, things change, moods change. It's all crazy. Don't listen to Perch, listen to Breen. Yeah, that's always smart. Listen to Breen. Don't listen to me. It's weird. So much of reading comics, I think, is it's how you're feeling at the time. It's what you've read. I mean, there's a lot of good books that I missed out on. Here, Classic Points is also going in the chat. I enjoyed the second read through of the Garth Ennis Punisher much more than the first. I liked it at the beginning. I thought this was fun. I remember picking it up again a couple of years later and being like, oh man, this is great. Why didn't I enjoy this more the first time? And it's weird how that happens.
Sometimes, and no one that I've ever met likes to admit this, but I admit this to myself. Sometimes you just don't appreciate something.
Yeah.
When you see it or read it the first time. And if you don't have the appreciation, maybe because you didn't understand the story or the themes it was relating to or whatever, then it's hard to find the enjoyment out of it because it's like you don't really get it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I know whenever you say that, it's like, oh, you didn't get it. And people immediately get defensive. Oh, no, I got it. I'm a smart guy. I could. It's like, well, maybe not, because if you didn't like it. And there's just been times, like, for example, one of my favorite movies of all time, absolutely up there, top 3, is The Matrix. But it wasn't always that way. The first time I saw The Matrix, I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's got some cool fights. I dig it. And then my buddy dragged me to the theater again and again. And I saw it 4 times in the theater, and then I was just like, each time I was like, oh, I was seeing more. I was like the onion was unfolding, peeling back.
Yeah.
And I was getting more and more of it. And because I was getting more and more of it, it allowed me to enjoy it more and more. And that's not always the case. Sometimes we just have visceral reactions to things and go, nope, I just hate that. That bothers me. And that's fine too. But I think there's just sometimes that something can be very good and we don't like it because it doesn't connect to us. And then later on, we make that connection. We go, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody asked earlier, by the way, what did Brett Booth do? I couldn't even begin to tell you. Somebody in the chat, he made some tweet at some point that offended some group and he's bad for it. And he didn't apologize in the right way, I guess. I don't know. I'm probably hand waving. I don't know what the controversy was, to be honest. I did this thing. I don't know if you remember, Ash, because this goes back before the YouTube channel. This was like 2 years ago, where I was going to track the outrage of the day. And I made it like halfway through January, writing down the outrage of the day. And I got so bummed out just opening up the Excel sheet to type in whatever people were pissed about that I gave up. I don't remember what Brett Booth's exact thing was. But this is interesting here. DC should concentrate on all ages books instead of YA. So I agree entirely with this. I think DC should give up on YA to some extent and go go younger. Like the primer book worked. Some of the other experiments they've done, some of the stuff they did with Tiny Titans and that stuff has worked. I would go there and let that mature a little bit and go fight it out with Dogman and get out of like YA. And I think that's becoming a trap for them. YA, they're not doing YA right.
Yeah, I agree. I think my speculation is that DC is targeting the parents. Like they're targeting, what they want is their book to be on a Barnes and Noble bookshelf, and a mom goes in and they see these books and they go, oh, that would be a lovely book for my daughter. And because it's look at how they're done. Look at the covers. Their covers are done like a novel. They're not done like a comic. They're not meant at all to appeal to anyone that has any desire to comics. And as a matter of fact, they're completely camouflaged and to be like it's. And so you buy into it going, oh, I don't like comics, but I can like this. But it's still a comic, and it's also not even a good one at that. But it doesn't matter because you bought it for your kids who probably don't want it anyway, because kids don't want what their parents think they should like no matter what. And you did an excellent video once a little while back with when you had your daughter on, posed all these covers.
Oh yeah,
got her reactions. And I thought that was really telling because obviously to me, DC is not doing any sort of like research with test audiences and maybe consulting children to see like what it is that excites them. And I think that's on purpose. I don't think that they even care, because they know that those kids aren't going to be buying the books. It's going to be either the example I just gave, or, and I hope I'm not offending anyone here, I don't think any of those people are in the audience, but it's going to be those Arrested Development adults that are like 45 years old, but in their mind they're still 10.
Yeah,
and
I love Arrested Development, but you are not talking about the show. I get it.
Yeah, sorry, not the show fans, nothing to do with the
show. Ryan Wilson asked an interesting question. Now that Trump is gone, will comics improve? No, I don't think it's connected. I think a lot of people like to talk about Trump, but I don't think. I mean, here's the sad fact: whether you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump, wherever you fall on the political spectrum, we're going to be hearing about Trump for 20 years. Like that to me, that's the most depressing thing of everything, because love him or hate him, he's going to continue to be brought up forever. And I would kind of like everybody to just move on to the next topic. Please let's move on. But oh well. Anyway, yeah. And to this point, there were comics that sucked before 2017. Absolutely, absolutely. Here's an interesting story. I don't know. Did you catch this one, Ash?
Which story?
Okay, there we go. So up on the screen. So this little press release kind of gets rolled out, and there was a video I did on this earlier, so we won't want to go over it all completely. But there is a factor here. There's a press release that Boom Studios is now going to be producing a Magic the Gathering comic, and they've signed this relationship with Hasbro. And this is intriguing because to date, the license with Hasbro has been really held by IDW. And IDW had published the Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering comic most of the last decade, but that's moving to Boom. It feels like this is the first kind of more concrete sign that Hasbro's properties are going to get shopped other places. And that I can't help but think this is very bad news for IDW.
Yeah, I mean, IDW's, I don't know how they continue to stay afloat, to be quite honest. And especially with the decisions they keep making, it'd be one thing if they were turning the ship around and it was like, okay, man, you're floundering, you're hemorrhaging money, but you could at least tell your investors, hey, look, see these trends that we're doing? Like, things are going to get better. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Instead, it's like the cliff is ahead. In Indiana Raiders of the Lost Ark, when they're driving towards the cliff, and it's like, step on the gas and keep going. You're like, what are you doing? I just don't understand. I don't understand what IDW is doing. And now they're, I don't want to get into the weeds on the TMNT franchise, but yeah, they're going to, this doesn't shock me. I believe they're going to start pushing big licensors away, because I don't know, if I was Hasbro and I saw what they were doing with TMNT, I'd be walking way far away. I go, oh, dude.
I think you have to, the story of missing the boat with Last Ronin and the demand for that comic and not being orders, that's got to be terrifying for a licensor. That's you're leaving money on the table at that point by working.
Yeah, and how it's not like IDW is a brand new publisher.
No,
it's not like they're AWA or something that's just getting their feet off the ground. They've been doing this for years. That Last Ronin thing was, it's not, I mean, I don't, that's like negligence. Like,
yeah, very, very strange. Yeah. They do still have the Disney license. That's true. However, the Disney license is, I think, always a tricky one, because that's an area where if Disney really wanted to, they can consolidate under Marvel. They could publish themselves through Disney Publishing. I mean, that's a very tenuous license, and it's not an exclusive one. There's nothing to stop Disney for publishing other places now, because they do. There are comic books that they produce other places with the Disney princesses and things. So it's an interesting sign. Maybe no big deal, but this feels like an interesting. I can't help but feel this is bad news, and it hurts. I think IDW, who's I really like Lock and Key and some of the things they put out. So it's
that's
painful.
Let's also keep in mind that corporate America is pretty much, I mean, they're a bunch of copycats, right? They just all, they're like a herd. They just go where the herd goes, right? We saw it with a lot of different political things in America. As soon as one started doing it, the rest immediately, like, we're not going to be different. And if big licensors, and Hasbro is a big licensor, there's no bigger toy company, I don't think, in the world than Hasbro.
Yeah.
And they pull their license. Next thing you know, someone else like, oh, Hasbro's pulling their license. What's going on over there? Because these other corporations, they might not even be paying attention. They're just like, yeah, I guess IDW is doing fine. And then they hear this news and like, wait a second. Why is Hasbro pulling their license? Let's look into this. Oh, wait, do we want to be? And then Disney might, they don't, if everyone, it's a domino effect is possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but once it starts,
it's troubling. I mean, now, and to be clear, they're still publishing some G.I. Joe comics. They still have Transformers. They have My Little Pony. Those do business. But it's the wording of the announcement with Boom indicated that there was a relationship being established with Hasbro. So it's basically it's kind of like when DC announced, hey, we're getting some other distributors here. We're going to still work with Diamond, but we're just getting our foot over here in this other camp as well. Like that's the concern. But there are some good Aftershock. Boom is making really good moves. I think AWA Erratic is great. I think I've really enjoyed that book. Just sad that it's only 2 issues or 5 issues, I think, in total. Yes, Netflix. Netflix has the indie market. I always like it when I hit a comment here and then the chat moves up. So then I click the wrong one. This is good. I think we're getting Jupiter's Legacy this year from Netflix, which is the first of all the Millerworld stuff. So there you have it. Anyway, so lots of stuff going on here.
Yeah, I'm really excited when that Millerverse actually gets going, because I've been waiting for this for years. Right? Yeah, remember when that happened? Yeah. Like how many years ago was it now that Netflix bought out Miller?
Oh, it feels like it's been roughly 20 years. Yeah.
You're right. It's like, geez, forever.
Yeah. So slowest show development in history, I think.
Right.
No, it's I'm anxious to see how they do with it. Miller is saying it looks absolutely incredible, but I mean, he's going to say that about, I mean, he is the master hype man. So I'm curious how it actually turns out, but I'm looking forward to it. But something that I'm a little less looking forward to. So Heroes Reborn. We got our promo art today for Heroes Reborn. We're going back. It's been 25 years since Heroes Reborn. Joe can come up with some clever, we're closer to Heroes Reborn than the moon landing, or to make us all feel very, very old. But this is what we got. So we got, I don't know. What do you make of this, Ash?
Oh boy, here we go. I saw you post this on Twitter.
By the way,
originally.
I love Coulson's unique is the slogan for what appears to be a presidential candidate of Phil Coulson. Coulson's unique.
When I saw you post that thing, and all it was originally was just the title Heroes Reborn.
Yeah.
I just face palmed, and I did the Picard face palm thing, and I was just like shaking my head. I was like, what is wrong with Marvel Comics? Are they literally run by monkeys? Like, I cannot understand the absolute levels of incompetence. Do they have anyone over there that understands anything about the comic industry or just entertainment business or what people want? They just seem to go every time they have a success and they're doing something good, like pretty much anything Donnie Cates does.
Yeah.
They don't follow up on it. They don't build upon it. When people complain that they're not, they make fun of those fans that are and then they do nonsense that we don't want, that we laugh at them and we say this is stupid.
Yeah.
And they just go full speed ahead, plow ahead, and it's like they don't care. And I feel the only explanation that makes sense to me, and this is speculation, the only explanation that makes sense to me is that DC treats Marvel like a trust fund child or whatever, and it's Marvel because do whatever it wants. It failed, doesn't matter, because DC's like, look, we don't care. We just want these licenses so we can make billion-dollar movie franchises.
Sure,
do whatever the hell you want. Doesn't matter. Like, it just feels like that because you pointed out on another recent tweet. You said something like they rebranded their that wraps thing that they were doing, Infinity Wraps.
Infinity Warps, yeah.
Warps, the Infinity Warps. I even forgot the name. Like, it was so forgettable. It was such down the memory hole.
Well,
and it was only a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I mean, so this was it's as I'm going through a giant analysis of 2019. So if you've been eating up and love those numbers videos, the 2019 is like my event. I'll do one about every 2 months because they take forever. I've been working on this thing for a week, and it really goes into everything that went on in 2019, which is starting to feel like more of a fundamental year for comics. But one of the things you track is the #1 issues. And I think in June or July, there was this insane amount of #1 issues. Like a third of all the comics Marvel published for the month were #1 issues. And I'm like, how? I must have the math wrong. But it's because there was a ton of these Infinity Warps comics here, which was a mashup of these heroes. So here we are, and there's Dr. Doom Juggernaut. I mean, I don't even know what to say. So,
well, we'll just say that Dr. Doom just recently turned down the Phoenix Force. So why would he care about Juggernaut? Like, it's just, they just.
I like how you're throwing some logic into the.
I'm just trying to say that they don't have any even idea what they're doing with the characters. Yeah. And they don't have any idea like what the fans who love these characters want to see. I'm a big Doctor Doom fan. In fact, he might be my favorite comic book character of all time. So maybe I'm a little bit biased when I say this, but I don't think I know of anyone who's a fan of Doctor Doom that was like, you know what we really need? How amazing it would be if Doctor Doom merged with Juggernaut. Yeah. Like, he doesn't need to.
I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird choice. I think this is Pancetta on art, right? I believe. No, this is Pacquiao on art. What am I saying? This is Pacquiao on art. But I can almost guarantee that that's not inside the book, right? And I don't know. I just this is a weird choice on all levels. This is just a strange choice.
And another thing is, I still can't make heads or tails of this because the original Heroes Reborn was a way of rebuilding that excitement. Like, hey guys, remember those superstar artists that you love that fled in the early 90s and they left Marvel and you were very sad. You wanted to see them doing Marvel comics again. Guess what? Jim Lee's back and he's doing Fantastic Four. And you were just like, oh, what? What's this? This is, I don't even know what this is. Like, it's not like the return of the Fantastic Four. It's just, hey guys, it's Dr. Doom and Juggernaut armor. Oh, and look, Enchantress and Shield or Nick Fury with some other guy. Is that Reed Richards? Maybe he's got a lab coat on. So
yeah, he's got a coat. So that is definitely Reed. Yeah. And as Joe points out, Doom has Doom on his knuckles.
Oh God. I mean, Thanos. What, Thanos is a hero reborn?
Well, Thanos has the Mandarin rings by the look of it.
Oh, because you sure that looks like the Infinity Gauntlet?
But I don't know. Maybe it's Infinity Rings. Maybe the Infinity Rings or the Mandarin rings. I don't know. Somebody pointed out that the Phil Coulson's unique is a joke about him being an LMD. So he's not unique because he's a robot. So it's a joke. I don't know. Like, it's sad because you look at this stuff, and I always fall into this trap. Like you look at this, and you're like, I've got to laugh at this because Doom's got Doom knuckles. And I mean, how can you not? How can you not? And then
I'm going to read it. I'm not. I'm going to be honest.
Well, somebody will point out
Doom knuckles.
Which of these, maybe these comics will be great. You don't know. And they might. They
train wreck. You're good.
I think we have to be able to mock this stuff at, if it looks truly ridiculous, we say it looks ridiculous, and then maybe we read it, and then I will do the video. Guys, I was wrong. Doom knuckles, cool.
I just don't.
I
can't. What I was trying to get to, my point was, I don't know what the direction is. I don't know what are they trying to sell us on. The original Heroes Reborn, I understood clearly what the sell was. Jim Lee is back, and he's doing America's greatest what's the Fantastic Four something greatest sci-fi magazine?
Oh, greatest comic, yeah.
No, it was something magazine. I forget that headline. Someone in the chat knows.
The world's greatest comic magazine.
Comic magazine, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, this is a dream thing. This I don't understand. What's the allure? Where's the selling point? Is someone coming back? What are we getting? Are we getting a team that hasn't been? Oh, we're getting Alpha Flight. That's it. I guess.
I like Alpha Flight, so yeah, bring back Alpha Flight. And true, again, Horizon. Yes, it doesn't appeal to you. This does not appeal to me. That doesn't mean it shouldn't appeal to others. Maybe some people will do it, but
here's the thing.
But this is still weird looking.
Right. Any one of these books, if you just wanted to launch, you just wanted to do a Doom story where he gets the armor, I'm not opposed to that. Or not the armor, the Juggernaut.
Sure.
You want to do a story with Enchantress? I'm not opposed to that. Like, none of these covers in a vacuum make me go, oh, that's just, crazy. I mean, Doom Knuckles is weird, but, you're going to do an Alpha Flight book? Okay. But this is, when you encapsulate it under this gigantic line-wide event, and it's Heroes Reborn, and it's going to be this big thing for 2021. Now, all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a second. Well, time out.
In fairness, this will be just one of 8 events in 2021. So,
oh, that's true.
I don't know. Yeah, Heroes Reborn is not for me so far. No, but I'll read it, and I definitely am. I am personally very open to, and not just open. I'm begging to be surprised in a good way. So please let these comics be awesome. I want Doom to punch somebody in the face with Doom Knuckles.
I want to say one thing on that comment about heroes. These are not for you, because I think it's a good point, and I hear it all the time, and it's a defensive thing that's thrown at me a lot. I'm not saying anyone's doing that right now, but just because a book's not for you doesn't mean you can't criticize it. I am more than happy for a book not to be for me if it can sell 100,000 copies.
Oh,
right?
Please.
I cheered on Immortal Hulk, even while I was like, nope, I ain't reading Al Ewing. Screw that guy. But when it was #1 at Marvel, I sat back and I applauded and I said, good for you, because you have an audience. You're obviously doing something successful, and you're selling more than any other Marvel comic out there. So I'm not going to criticize it. That's a book that's not for me. But when you're Moon Girl and you're the bottom seller and you sell half as much as any other comic book that would be canceled, and I say that book sucks, and people go, well, that book's not for you. I go, that book's not for anyone. That book is legitimately being, subsidized. That's where I kind of get the problems. And if Heroes Reborn is a massive success and it's
open,
people are loving it, I'll sit back and go, hey, it's not for me. But if it's a total bomb, I'm going to be, the Simpsons guy, like laughing because it's a joke. And we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but this does not look well.
No, it's not. And there's plenty of ideas that I would like. I was mentioning to Joe earlier. I'd like to see Rachel Pollack on the Avengers. I would definitely love to see that. That would be a terrible idea. It would not sell well. That's not a good mix for the Avengers, but I would still love to see it. I would love to see David Lynch do the next James Bond movie. That would also be a very bad idea, but it would be hilarious to me. So, we all have our own things.
Marvel needs an experimental imprint.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Right. Wouldn't that be cool? Just like 4 comics, and you can say, here's a realm where we can just go crazy experimental with characters and directions that we never would do.
That's what if, like, bring back What If. Stop messing around with this stuff and just publish What If every month, and then go crazy. I don't know. That's what I would do. Here's a question that I think is an interesting one, because I find this a struggle. So why? There's a lot of people complain about Marvel and DC, and then I say, well, did you check out We Live? Did you check out Erratic? Did you check out Killlock? Here's a bunch of different companies all doing other things. And I will get the answer of like, no, I'm not going to the indies. I won't do that. Why not? You clearly are not that person. You're reading a ton. You list the stuff you're reading out, which is a lot of indies right now. Why do you think that people are really angry at Marvel DC, but refuse to look at viable options elsewhere?
Well, I think I can bring something to the table on this, because I was that guy. And in some ways I still am. The thing I would say to Bowlby is that a great majority of comic fans are Capes fans. And by Capes, I mean the superheroes of the big 2, Marvel, DC. Valiant tried to make an impression. That ship sailed, unfortunately. But They want their Spider-Man, their Superman, Batman, X-Men, what have you. They're invested in these universes. They're invested in these superheroes, and that's what they want. Now, as good as, say, Ed Brubaker's Reckless is, and it's the best thing I've read this year, and as good as Pulp was, which is the best thing I read last year, they don't want that. And they can go and read it and maybe admit, even if I get them to read it and go, wow, Ash, that really was good. It doesn't satisfy that itch. And it's the same reason I'm not reading My Hero Academia right now, as much as I love it. And I will tell people it is legitimately great, but it's still not Western comics. It doesn't scratch the itches that I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's fair.
When I read Ascender, which is probably my favorite comic right now, I love that book, and I will try to sell everyone to get this book or any of the other books I mentioned earlier. They're all good, but I lament, and I sometimes can sound very salty and sour because I'm frustrated that the books I want to read, like X-Men, I don't get to because I don't enjoy them. They make me angry. I don't like what DC's doing with Future State. In fact, I hate it. And I'm upset because I care about those things. And look, I'm admitting I'm not getting my way. And that's fine. No one owes me anything. But as a customer, I don't owe them anything. Like, I'd put my money elsewhere. And I am enjoying those books. Some people just don't want to do that, though. Some people are like, look, if I can't have my Captain America, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's all they want.
It's your money. I think people can be upset or love whatever they want. And it's like I don't think we should try and gatekeep people from saying you don't get to be upset or you don't get to be happy. If somebody is all in on Juggernaut Doom, be happy. Be happy, buy it. I'll cheer you on, take your money. It's great. If somebody wants to make fun of it, that's fair game too. I think nobody is preventing somebody. Like, there's not somebody standing in front of the shop going, no, I refuse to let you buy that Doom cover because it's too stupid. Nobody's doing that. So, maybe it's all just a lot of hyperbole here. But anyway, and these are some good points. The indies need to do some better marketing. There's so many of them feel like if they can just get their comics highlighted in diamond previews, they're good. And that's great. You're marketing to the shop, but there's that other thing about marketing to the customers. But
I will say, I mean, the reason I am reading the indies I am today is because once upon a time, I was able to have 80%, 90% of my pull be mainstream comics. And I was never opposed to indies. I've always liked indies, but as like a side dish, right? It's like, oh, I got my mainstream comics and I'm going to get this little sci-fi title too. It seems kind of cool, right? It's the same thing when you go to the movies. Most people have certain kinds of movies that they gravitate towards. And then every once in a while, they'll go see a movie that's a little bit outside of the normal wheelhouse and that's the way it was. But what I was noticing after a couple years went by, that when I got home, the books that I was dying to read that I cared about, like almost unanimously, was the indies. And I was just like looking at some of the mainstream books I was buying, and I was like, I got to get through that book. Like it was a chore. Like I just wasn't looking forward to it. And eventually I just had to have a coming to Jesus moment, quote unquote, of like, look, sometimes books, you may love the character and you want the book to be good, but all that wishing isn't going to make it so. And this other book, which you didn't think was going to be, is hooked you, and you're into it, like. And when I noticed every week, I used to do videos of like my comic hauls, and I would talk about each book that I was buying. Each of the indies were like so much enthusiasm. Oh, this book is so good. And I'm like, oh, and then here's Batman. And it's all right now, like, and I just noticed. And now that I'm not getting DC books because DC decided to cancel everything for this Future State, I'm noticing, hey, I'm not really missing them as much as I thought I would.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't reach that moment because they've never tried. They don't know if they'll be like me or not. And if they haven't tried it, they don't know what they're missing. So I can tell someone, dude, Ascender is fantastic. You never read it. You're not missing anything. So it's easy. We need to find a way to get people exposed. And word of mouth, I just tell people, find those 3 books that you love, like legitimately, like just are amazing to you, and just just promote the crap out of those. Just read. Because I think that's the way the industry needs to go, is for audiences to really support the quality stuff. Because we all kind of follow people to differing degrees, right? Most of the books I read are because someone suggested it or pointed it out or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'll give that a try. And next thing you know, I'm a fan.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a good comment in the comment that some of the people are hating on comics right now, or really dislike the big two. They really praise manga, and I do believe, because when you pin them down, I think they don't necessarily read manga either. They're just happy to see the big two get beat by somebody, and which is a shame. I think there's a lot of really good manga out there. So getting fixated on these companies have irritated me. I want to see them fail. That doesn't sustain anyone for long, or at least it doesn't sustain me for long. At the end of the day, I want to read something I enjoy. So, I mean, I'll turn to some of this stuff. I don't know. Somebody else asked, by the way, Heroes Reborn, when is it happening? It sounds like summer. We haven't heard an exact date, but maybe May is when we're doing. We just saw the April solicits. They weren't in April, so May, June. The Spider-Man Clone Saga is kicking off in April. This is Miles Morales' version of the Clone Saga. And this to me feels like that somewhere along the line, Marvel's like, okay, we keep hearing the fans. They love the 90s. They want the 90s. We'll give them the 90s. Let's shove them 90s storylines into these books. But that's not what people are asking for when they say they love the 90s. So I don't know. The Clone Saga, I'll throw this. It'll be my hot take that will make people laugh at me. I suspect that the Clone Saga will not be as terrible as people think. And I say that because earlier, if you were reading along with Miles Morales, one of the storylines that was going on in the books is that Miles got kidnapped. He got kind of experimented on by some mysterious person, and they were doing something. And it looks like now they're bringing a bunch of Miles clones into the mix that are evil, and they're going to fight him and everything else. It feels like a continuation of that storyline. I don't think it's going to be any kind of classic for the ages, but I suspect it's not as silly as or even a big deal. I think this thing will go on for a few issues and it'll be gone. Like a lot of events at Marvel right now, just in 9 months we will not remember any of this. So we'll see.
That's the problem, though. Right?
Yeah,
here's another thing that I've been a big proponent of for a long time, is the difference between people who are fans of comics and people who actually spend their hard-earned money on comics. Mm-hmm. And one thing I've noticed, and this is not a universal truth, but I've noticed a trend, is that a lot of people who tell me like, oh, Ash, whatever, people like what they like, aren't necessarily the ones spending a lot of money on the books. And it's very easy to be like, who cares what Spider-Man Clone Saga is if you're not buying it? But if you're the guy that dropped $100 on it and all the spin-offs and everything else, and it sucked, you might be mad. You might have an emotional reaction and go, dude, you wasted my time and my money, versus the guy who maybe read it through illicit means, other ways, and goes, it wasn't that good, but who cares? Because guess what? They didn't, it's the same reason like when you go to the movies. If I go to a movie and I paid $15 for a movie ticket and $15 for a popcorn and a Coke and everything, and spent the time to go drive to the theater and all this stuff, and I go and that movie's crap, I walk out of that theater in a bad mood, because that was a lot of money to spend, time. But if I just pop on Netflix and the movie's crap, I didn't spend any extra money, right? Like it's just, and it's like, it's crap, move on. Like I don't have that emotional reaction. And I think that's something a lot of people don't consider when fans are reacting differently. Some fans are just casual, like, who cares really? Versus the ones who are like maybe me, who are salty, because like, dude, I do care. I stretch my budget as tight as I can to get the comics I do, and when I feel ripped off, and sometimes it's just really bad. I know I can be a snob. I admit it, but I try to be understanding, and I try to. But when a book is just doing garbage, and when like this stuff, Clone Saga, Heroes Reborn, it's like, is there an ounce of a new idea I mean, you guys do employ Donnie Cates. Like,
well, I mean, even regardless, I think that here's the crazy part. I suspect that the Miles Morales Spider-Man book, somebody said they've been leading up to this for a while. I don't know if it's going to be a good storyline, bad storyline, but I suspect it's going to be okay. The title has not been terrible. I suspect that labeling it Clone Saga and putting a little event label on it and trying to make a bigger deal out of it is actually going to be detrimental to this storyline that they kind of been building to organically over the last 10 issues or so. Like, it feels like this is going to make people feel more negative about it. Whereas if you just forget about it, the story's not bad. It's
if you undersold it and then over deliver, people remember. And you oversell something and it's just mediocrity, then people get frustrated because they're like, oh, I'm going to go all in on this. I love Clone Sagas. And then
this feels only harmful because there's a lot of people with negative memories of this who are like, this is a cheap cash grab, another event. No, thank you. I'm angry. They will opt out without even looking at it and maybe miss something good. And the people who are, maybe following along with the storyline and enjoying it are going to be like, why are you suddenly making this bigger deal? Oh, and there's a tie-in now. Like, what do you do? Like, it feels like this only has the potential to be negative for the book as opposed to actually helping it. But I don't know. The
other thing to consider is that a lot of comic buyers are collectors.
Sure.
And so maybe you're a Spider-Man fan and you've been buying all the issues. But maybe you're like me and you go, oh, I hate the idea of a Clone Saga. So now what do? Do I just stop buying the issues temporarily until it's over and then pick it back up? And now I got this hole in my collection, which drives me nuts. I don't want that. Or do you power through it? And I know there's a lot of people like me who go, oh, I'm just going to power through this and I'm going to buy these issues because I collect this title.
I think they count on that.
And but then it's frustrating because they're like, man, you're taking my money.
Yeah,
and then especially if you don't deliver afterwards, if your follow-up isn't like,
No, I mean, if you get more negative as time goes on, that's not healthy for the overall line. It feels like there's more to lose than gain with this kind of stuff. And I do think you get cases where you have, writers with good ideas, and then you do things that takes the attention off their idea. It's a little bit like when last week we were talking about that Green Lantern #1 and the cover that got pushed out there, which does not seem to be the actual #1 cover. It's like, why would you do that? You change the conversation to something completely different. And now when people read the story, they're going to come in with that negative. I mean, there's a bunch of people in the comments of the video said, no, I won't read that. I won't ever read that comic because that cover made me so mad, which is probably a silly attitude. But still, like, why would you lean into things that are more likely going to hurt you than help you? That's just very strange. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I can't say it any better. It's perfect.
I'm making everybody mad with this picture, but I thought I'd explain it real quick. So state of the comics industry, it's the thing that people are getting hooked up on. And I had some guy get just really viscerally angry and then sent me a long mail about how terrible I was because I used the word large independence. True. I mean, it's kind of a point. It's a bad word. Marvel and DC, you can't really call them independents when you're owned by, AT&T and Disney. That's not the right way to call Marvel and DC. But the thing to kind of recognize here is, like, we've had a recalibration of the market at this point. The mainstream, the true things that are driving the dollars, the conversations, what the booksellers are looking for, that is now happening with a lot of YA. It's happening with Dogman. It's happening with manga. It's amazing to me that manga has found a way to shoehorn itself into this industry. Will it last? Who knows? If I'm predicting here, I think that the YA and the all ages stuff will last. Manga, I think it'll have peaks and valleys. We've seen manga crash before, so I don't think it's going to last amazing forever. But the curious part is just, what's happening down here at the indie level. And so like we talked about, some things that are happening with Boom, what's Valiant up to, are people like AWA and Mad Cave and Vault and Aftershock, how are they going to kind of adapt to all this stuff? Is IDW going to survive? I mean, there's a lot of movement right now. And I think the next 5 years are going to be absolutely fascinating to see how it plays out. And then, of course, that bottom category, which I want to try and change the conversation away from crowdfunding to self-promoted and published, but because I think I think there's going to be other ways to get these books out here. And something like some of these books down below will fit into that same category of somebody who just manages to get an audience and sells books direct to market. So I think there's just, this is kind of a way I'm mentally thinking about how the world is shuffled. What about you? What does this, again, large independents, probably a bad word. Again, the guy went on and on and on about what a jackass I am for using large independents as a term. But
see, I think it's hilarious. That's something I would do, but I'm a little bit more provocative.
I was definitely poking. I admit it, because I do find it, because to be fair, Marvel and DC for a long time, and if you were in comics in the 90s, they were absolutely through all kinds of shade at companies like Dark Horse and Eclipse and Malibu, and for being, those are just little independents. Those are little independents. We run the industry, we run the conversation, and they were so arrogant about it, especially Marvel. So I admit I am definitely poking.
You remember how completely insane they went that month that Image was #1?
Oh, absolutely.
It was like unheard of. Like the kingdom had been toppled, the ivory tower. Like,
absolutely.
Oh, I think it's funny. And so whoever made the comment, if you're listening, about the large independents, like, it's a joke. It's just poking fun. Like, no harm is done.
People
need satire.
Yeah, it is. I definitely got the thumbs down. The guy just put a thumbs down here, so he hit this. I triggered something with this image.
Satire is so important, even if you disagree with it. Like, we need to be able to poke fun at things. And I know maybe you're a big Marvel or DC fan, but so are we. No one's more of a fan. I guarantee you, there's probably not a bigger fan right now in this channel listening of Marvel and DC than Perch. Right, the guy has invested his life into like supporting comics.
That's kind of
sad. But when you like things, you have to also be able to criticize them and be sometimes they're not doing things that you like. Blind worship and bootlicking doesn't make you some sort of a bigger supporter. It just doesn't. And satire oftentimes is done because you want things to be better. I think you and I both, we want Marvel and DC to be great again. I want
Marvel and DC to absolutely be at the top and destroying this stuff. Although I do love, for that matter, I just want everybody to make it big.
We want everything to be great.
I want more money in this thing. I don't know. It's a funny world. Definitely. I do think some perspective helps. I think there were a lot of people. You just have to go and do yourself a favor at some point. Go back to 93, 94 and look at some of the statements, which are on the web. You can find them, of things that Marvel and DC, and especially Marvel, and people like Peter David, like, look into some of that. The amount of absolute shade that were thrown to anyone smaller than DC, and oftentimes DC as well, but just really kind of biting, angry stuff.
When Frank Miller and John Byrne went over to Dark Horse and did comics over there, it was just like, I mean, because remember, Frank Miller used to be DC's like golden boy. They'd roll out the red carpet anytime he was going to do something, and he's like, I'm doing a comic at Dark Horse. It was like, what? No, they were absolute kings in their castles, and everyone else was peasants.
Yeah, it was. To me, that's always my memory, because that was when my shop started. That's when I was starting to meet a lot of people in the industry. It was right around that time period, so I remember those things, and I do have to stop myself short from time to time because things have changed, people have evolved and everything else. But I always remember that arrogance so thick. And so a lot of my perspective, I think, probably comes from there. And I need to let go. I need to take Rian Johnson's advice and just let go of the past, kill it, and move on. That's
you just went the wrong direction, my friend.
And I will put this up here in May. I must do something major with the Common American guys, Tim Lim and all that kind of stuff. Rags, they put out amazing stuff, and they need way more than what I give them for sure. So hopefully I can do.
Yes, support Tim Lim, support Brian Ball. Rags. Those guys do good stuff. Get to know them. They're friendly on social media, and they're fans too. So I absolutely want to give shout out to those guys.
And Scout Comics is worth checking out. Dude, check out Scout Comics. There are a lot of good stuff there. Here's just a little preview of something coming out, and I'll move on from this. But this is 2019. And this goes month by month of the average unit sold by publisher. The interesting part of this picture is, as is average. Now, this is including reprints, but here's a crazy part. And you'll see as we go through it, when I do this full video, the reprints don't make the picture like you always say, oh, you got to take out the reprints because the reprints are bringing the numbers down. But actually, the reprints were outselling many of the titles. Like the True Believer stuff often outsold like the bottom quarter of the line. So I do show it with and without reprints, but like the picture does not really change. So it's an interesting way to look at things. Not as much as you'd think, but anyway, it's curious. I mean, are you a little surprised? 2019, the average units for DC, or sorry, for Marvel, were under 30,000. Like,
no, not at all. Because most of Marvel's titles are that. I mean,
yeah,
people always like to throw in my face as a DC supporter and a guy who rags on Marvel. Keeping in mind, for those of you listening, I came into comics. I'm a Marvel guy, just modern Marvels in the tank. I would criticize them heavily because I hate what they're doing and I want them to be number one again. I want them to be good. I just want them to be good. People say, oh, well, Marvel's number one, Ash, just take it. They're always number one. And I'm like, they're actually not. They're just flooding the market with comics so that they can keep that market share. But if you actually look at units sold, price per, revenue per comic, things like that, Marvel doesn't have that. DC's far outselling it. And for several years, when you looked at the top 10, it was like 8 of them were DC. Marvel couldn't crack it because people just don't really care about Marvel comics.
No, it's 2019 is you will not expect what you see. There's a lot of surprises there. There are some takeaways. Looking at what Boom did, if you can kind of ascertain it there, Boom is the line in green. Boom basically almost doubled the average units they sold through the course of this year. It's just, there's some very interesting trends as you see kind of what's going on and who's doing well and who's not. There's some very interesting stuff there. DC, it's amazing. I do a look of what happens when you just take out any Batman Who Laughs comics and you see what happens to her. We all joke, Batman Who Laughs, overdone, overused character, painful, all that kind of stuff. And yet, if you take out Batman Who Laughs for DC, like they drop substantially. Just that comic and just the characters. That comic, it is zero surprise that character is being used over and over again.
Sure, right. It's the Titanic of comics, right? It's the movie everyone professes to hate, yet everyone went and saw it sometimes more than once. But no, the number that surprises, the lines in there that surprised me, I would say would be IDW going up.
Well, keep in mind that they did have some series launch. It didn't help immensely, but you did have that slight bump. So there are some interesting things.
But Boom. Oh, sorry.
Boom
is a company. I don't really buy stuff from them, but it's just mostly because they're not doing things that are in my demographic, I guess, or whatever. But as a publisher, you could make a good argument for Publisher of the Year. Boom seems to be making good decisions.
Oh yeah,
managing the stuff that they have well, hitting the audiences that they're targeting. Again, I'm fully 100% understanding and accepting that comics aren't all for. I don't want every comic to be for me. Believe me, there's 500 comics a month. That would be terrible. I just want there to be 10 to 20 comics for me, so that I don't have to make hard decisions what to cut. That's fine, but just be successful. Do it well. And I wish Boom all the success. I stand back and say, hey, look, you look like you're doing fine. The audiences are happy with your books. They just launched a new Expanse book, and I was like, oh, should I check this out? I like the Expanse.
There definitely is. And to some questions, yes, like I mentioned before, I do have this without reprints, but this is one of the surprises. The reprints do not change the picture. In fact, if in some cases you take out the reprints and the number goes down, which is for one of publisher, which is interesting. And I also chart it by number ones, but the number ones is just a terrifying picture because you have, it is, I post on Twitter, like you have Marvel, like I think average the year where 25% of their line every month was a number one issue. It is an absolute, it will scare the shit out of you kind of picture.
I used to, in 2019, I used to do a every Wednesday video about me buying my new comics and eating an In-N-Out burger and just talking about whatever's on my mind. And one of the things I used to do was mock Marvel and their number ones. And I did this little contest about DC versus Marvel. Who had more number ones? And Marvel always won, pretty much.
Oh, it's not close.
But it was a joke. I'd be like, oh, look at this week. Marvel's got 6 new number ones just this week. And to some people who are like, okay, what's the big deal, Ashton? I'd say, well, the big deal is back in the Renaissance era of comics, let's say the 80s into the early 90s, when comics were booming and everyone was, excitement for Marvel might not have 6 number ones in a year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just every comic was firing and going, and they just printed them, and you didn't need number ones. People were just buying the comics that were out. And now it's like a whole different industry. Now I liken it to the fast food industry. I don't know if there's a term for it that I don't know, but it's in marketing, where you constantly are introducing new special limited edition products to keep the interest, because your fan base or your customer base doesn't have the interest in your whatever normal product to continue. And so you constantly have to be winning them over. And this is very prevalent in fast food and other industries too. But in fast food, for instance, like Pizza Hut and Taco Bell are one of the biggest guilt of this, where every couple of weeks there's a brand new, like, get the special cheesy stuffed crust gordita, or something. And you're like, well, I gotta try this new thing. And then it lasts for a couple weeks, and then boom, oh, now we've got this new whatever bacon jalapeno hot dog. And you're like, what? I don't know, weird things. And you constantly it's what it's doing is it's marketing to that. That sounds different. Gotta try it out. And Marvel's doing the same thing. Like, oh, that last thing sucked, but this new thing,
it just keeps going.
Yeah.
I'm doing them backwards from order. So I do have some numbers from 2020, and I'll do kind of the abbreviated first quarter of 2020, because that's really the last time we have consistent good numbers is March. But I'm going backwards, and I'm doing it for a reason, and you'll figure it out why as we go through the videos. We do 2019 in about a month. I'll do 2018 and go back. It is true. There's a couple people I know who voiced this opinion. 2016 and 2017 of there being a shock to the comic system. You see it in the numbers. There was a moment there where a bunch of things all happened. And then you see in 2018 kind of a little bit of a recalibration. In 2019, you see, I'd say, the result of the unhealthy practices. And the result of the unhealthy practices is increasingly, when you look at the numbers, if you take out the gimmicks, if you take out the number one relaunches, if you take out and you look at like the falls, like the percentage from how much a comic drops from issue 1 to issue 2, it goes nuts. Like 2019, you can look at the data a lot of different ways. And even though there was more money in some cases in that year, it was absolutely incredibly unhealthy. That year was super, super unhealthy. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. People are saying they lost me for a moment. So did I?
Yeah, I lost you too, but it came back. It was like three or 4 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Thank you, Wi-Fi. It's awesome. Anyway, on to kind of happier things. Hey, so like I said, some retrospectives coming up. We're doing Doom Patrol here, the Grant Morrison, Richard Case run, which I think will be super awesome, and you will love it. And then the Amazing Spider-Man Kraven's Last Hunt. So that should be a lot of fun too. Looking forward to getting those out. Did you any Doom Patrol people in the chat by any chance?
While we're waiting for them, I can say that I have never tried Doom Patrol. It's always seemed very weird to me. Yeah. And it's just one of those books that I've just been intimidated to just try. I'm just like, the part of the problem is too many books. So it's easy. It's so easy to pass on things, Perch.
Yeah, it is. There's
too
a lot. Yeah.
There's so many, and I feel for people who don't read the good books, because I get it. There's 500 new books. Well, I don't know what the currently is with the COVID thing, but pre-COVID, there were 500 books.
There still are.
Yeah. Every month. And your comic books, you probably don't see it when you go to your comic book store, because your comic book store is if you got a good comic book store, it's big. Like mine's big. It's got a gigantic wall for new stuff. they probably get a third of the books, and everything else you got a special order. So you don't, sometimes we don't as fans sometimes see that because, but when you do what Perch does, when he researches all the solicits, he goes, oh my goodness.
Yeah. No,
should I try Doom Patrol?
I don't know. So if you like the TV show, if you like that, then this is the run for you. I would say grab Grant Morrison's case. If you like Grant Morrison, this is probably a more pure Grant Morrison than what you got, say, with X-Men. But it's I don't know. I enjoyed this book. It's wacky. It was. I tell you what. Like I said, we're going to be taping this retrospective. I don't want to give away the full surprise, but I think I could say Joe's joining me on that, right, Joe? You're in the chat there, and we'll have another special guest on there to help us do this retrospective that I think you're going to love. I would listen to that, and if you're listening to that, like, hey, this sounds great, then that's I recommend picking it up. I liked it a lot, but it is it's definitely, it will work for some people and definitely not others, I would say. Yeah, see, Joe's willing to go on record. We're doing this, and I think that's tomorrow, so that's going to be a good time. Here's a question: do I have any data of a year's sales without the events? I'm trying to do that. I think I'm going to pull that off.
That's tough.
It is hard. Yeah, I mean, especially with Marvel, you're like taking out 3/4 of the line at some point,
right?
So it's hard. Like, God. I mean, I remembered at the time, but damn, War of the Realms was so many freaking books. Like you have, I mean, anyway, it's
79 books.
Yeah, it's so much
in a 3-month period.
I would, by the way, kill to have Alan Moore come on to bury Grant Moore. That'd be the funnest video in the world, but that probably won't happen. So, by the way, this is a question. Any solid numbers of LCSs that have folded last year? No. Anecdotally, people were throwing out numbers at about 10%, which was considered a huge victory, folded last year. But I don't know. That would be. But somebody way early in the chat, and I meant to grab it, and then it is vanished into the ether. I hope they're still here. If they're not, I feel really shitty now because I didn't put it up. A comic shop is closing. His comic shop is closing. He said he had 25 years in the business, and the guy's retiring. So if you're still there, please post this up again. I want to throw this up on the screen because I know that shop. I've been in that shop, and it was anyway.
Anecdotally, I can say that the shop that I go to is the biggest, not the biggest single store per se, but the biggest. The owner has 8 stores. It's in San Diego, and he's closed at least 3 of his shops.
Yeah, San Diego was a crowded market, but yeah, that's tough.
He was doing well, but a lot of his shops are he does most of his shops are in malls.
Yeah,
and COVID destroyed shopping malls.
Oh yeah,
if you have a business in a shop, you're done.
Yeah, it's anyway. We're doing more videos of an experience-driven comic store. Yeah, absolutely. I love doing those. I always think nobody cares about that. The stuff that I find interesting, but I'll admit, I was mentioning this to Joe yesterday. I don't get it all why people are coming to this channel, and this is not me fishing for compliments, by the way. I'm not. Please don't. But I don't understand why people like the videos they like. It's so confusing to me. So I feel like I'm always stumbling over myself. I'm doing stupid stuff. Like I think I put up a video this morning that had already gone up, and I just forgot to delete it off my computer. So it's like I said, it's a class act here all the way for sure. Anyway, I don't know why people like the videos they like. It's very, very strange. I get why people come here in the first place, but I don't get why they stay. So, but anyway, thank you for everybody. You're listening to us ramble. Always very good. Okay, so happier stuff. We've done this before. This week, in the past, we had these comics. So who can forget Iron Man 2020?
Everyone.
It almost killed me. I was mentioning this earlier. I think that this comic had a big delay in the middle because, of course, in the pandemic, and that saved me. Like I was committed to doing the reviews of all these issues, and it had that gap in the middle. If it hadn't, I would have just gone right down into the abyss of this comic. I don't know why this one bothered me so much, but yikes. By the way, somebody's asking what happened in 2016. Secret Wars happened, and then I think Civil War II happened in kind of this time period, And that was very detrimental, I think.
Well, and also Marvel was in the middle of their, what they did right before Legacy, and were turning all of their characters into what DC is doing right now. They had their version of Future State where they replaced all their characters with new diverse alternatives.
Yeah.
And fans were very unhappy with it.
It is funny though. I threw this out, I don't know, like a week or so ago. Axel Alonso gets all the criticism for that era, but now, having seen how things have rolled out in terms of kind of putting out good comics and healthy stuff, I think history is going to show that Alonso had a better track record of comics and titles than Cebulski in terms of managing the line. I think that's one of those weird things that we're going to come to realize a few years from now.
Maybe. My current perspective is that Alonso was a better EIC, but he was more of a, like, I don't care, you're going to take what I give you. Whereas Cebulski's more of a, like, just doing my thing, and he's not really trying to antagonize fans, or, like, I don't think he has any malicious intentions. Like, he's just literally like, hey, let's put cats on covers, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
You know, like, whereas Alonso's like more planned, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna take all your characters away, and you're gonna like it, and if you complain, F you.
But maybe in the comic industry, and I'm just speculating here, I haven't given this nearly enough thought, but if you look at, Jim Shooter was a guy who had a plan and he executed it, and a lot of people didn't like it and complained, and when he was gone, Jim burned a effigy, like a literal effigy of him, and then in the comic blew up his hometown. But he was firm in what he believed. And Alonso was firm. By the way, I'm not making the case Alonso's best EIC of all time. It's interesting how he got so much criticism. There was a million videos made about how awful this guy was. But as we've seen kind of the aftermath, and I think I don't know, I think history is going to wind up remembering him better than a lot of people think. But we'll see.
Let's hope. Maybe. I don't know. His history is pretty bad, Perch.
Yeah, I know. I'm just curious because it is. Keep in mind, I think Alonso did reign over the that era where, like, Solo was getting a comic, and Fool Killer had a book and other things, and those were questionable choices. But it is. I don't know. It's weird when you look at the sales numbers. You see kind of like that one from before. Like, things were way more erratic in 2019, and that's not a healthy point. But anyway, it's a lot of points. And as Breen mentions here, I think Alonso's playing with his money, and it's AWA it seems like a much better plan, but it's not all.
Didn't Axel Alonso do that comic that you listed as one of the worst comics like ever at Marvel? Like, I forget the name of it. It was like a really bizarre.
Are we talking about Trouble?
Maybe it was a bizarre mini series. You did like a video all about it.
It wasn't Alonso. I think you're talking about Trouble, or maybe you're talking about that weird one. God, what was it? It came out at the same time, and it was the parody of DC. And
you made a video about it, and you were like, I don't understand what anyone was thinking making this comic. Like, and you were like, how Axel Alonso just said, go anyway, just make it. He may not have personally.
That was Marvel. Yeah, this was Marvel, but I don't think that was Alonso. I think that was Bill
Hamas. Yeah. Joe's correcting me. Thanks, Joe. It was Bill Hamas.
No, that would be Marvel. Yeah, Trouble was terrible, but Marvel takes the cake.
Marvel was what I was thinking of, and it's Bill Hamas.
Yeah.
You're okay. But isn't Bill Hamas also at AWA?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Anyway. It is. Yeah, Marvel, for those of you, so hopefully all of you in the chat have experienced the glory of Marvel, but that is one of the most astounding comics of all time, where I just on every front, it was a terrible idea. One of the comics they don't finish the art. The last issue is it's a comic about how to submit ideas to Marvel in the comic, and they charge you for it. It is like, it is strange. Yeah, Axel Alonso works under Bill at AWA. That's true. So, we'll see what happens. But Marvel Marvel, no matter, I like this because no matter how bad you think it's getting at Marvel or DC or anywhere else, you pick up a copy of Marvel and you sleep better at night.
I need to read this book sometime. It's been on my to-do list ever since you did that video. I was fascinated.
Yeah, that one and Trouble both. Like I did one right after the other, and I remember reading these and thinking this is stupid. But when you're reading them in the moment, and then reading them back, it's like, oh wow, it's life changing. I'm telling you, this most amazing thing. We should do that. Well, let's do. Except it wouldn't be legal. We should do a live stream sometime, and we'll just put the pages of Marvel, and we'll all go through it together as a big group. And it is.
Well, I do that twice a week. I'm not monetized.
You don't do that. Oh, you're demonetized. Okay.
No, I'm not monetized.
Yeah.
I'm not demonetized. I'm just not a monetized channel. And so I seemingly get away with things because I'm not profiting off of anything. And I do a bi-weekly or twice a week stream where I call it story time.
Yeah.
Read a couple comics live and talk comics. And
yeah, I was wondering how is he getting away with it? You're not monetized. That makes sense. But yeah. So maybe somebody in the chat can explain this. I don't like the ads, and I'm sure you guys don't like it either. The only reason they're up there is that I was seeing that YouTube was suppressing everything I was doing without having them there. So I've clicked it on, but at some point, right, I can turn those off. Like if the audience is here, then you guys can just follow me along, and I don't care about growing, right? That's what I should do. Anyway,
you should do what you want to do.
I should do what I want to do.
I read the comics. I don't do any like new comics because I do want comics to succeed. So I mostly read older books. Marvel and DC aren't losing any money. If anything, I might actually be giving them money because a lot of comics I read, people go, oh, this is great. I want to get this. And they go pick up like I'm doing Thanos Wins right now. And I got one of the people watching my channel. They're like, I'm adding the omnibus to my pull, my thing. He's going to go buy. So I just gave Marvel a $70 sale,
Yeah, no, there's definitely people. I mean, I heard that a lot of people went and sought out Erratic after that interview, and Kari Andrews did a great job with that. And yeah, I mean, this is the new marketing. You can't rely on marketing like Camelot 3000 there did back in the day. That's that doesn't really happen anymore. Anyway, Marvel
outrage.
Yeah, this is okay. This is what we'll do. I've got to figure out a good format here, and we'll get Marvel, Trouble, Ultimates 3. I'm not doing Iron Man 2020 again. And then America.
Some comics are just so taxing that you just they extend beyond the realm of just legendary terrible books like Marvel and America.
It was weirdly satisfying to watch that Disney Plus series where they went over with Dan Slott and the creation of Iron Man 2020, and to watch like Christos Gage and the other people also depressed and tired doing that book. I'm like, I felt a kinship for all the other people on that title watching that thing. Anyway, yeah, the chat wants Iron Man 2020 again, but they're not going to get it. I guarantee that. What was worse, Iron Man 2020 or Marvel? Marvel is the worst comic of all time. I mean, I think Marvel is worse than that Sins Past story. I mean, like I'm sure there's some comics out there that are worse, but Marvel has to be a contender. I don't know. Joe's read everything. Breen's read everything. Is there a worse comic than Marvel? I can't imagine it. It's so bad. Yeah. Marvel has Ted Turner's descendant Karate Chop a Meteor. Yeah, it does have everything.
That sounds so awesome.
Yeah.
I need to.
But it actually, the pitch, that's a funny thing. It's how Marvel sucks you in. The pitch is like, okay, this sounds absurd and hilarious. And then you read it and like, oh, how did they? No, this is awful.
I need to have a drinking stream where we just go through and read an issue of Marvel while drinking and just have laughs. Sounds hilarious. Yeah,
Kelly Thompson's Captain Marvel book, the single word flagship title. I don't know. I don't think I have read it. I don't don't love that book, but I think there's much worse. I think that Kelly Thompson's version of Captain Marvel is much better in the last, like, whatever, 800 editions that they've printed there. But you know, I think there's been worse takes. I do wish they, like Kelly Thompson's book, for whatever reason, and I guess it makes sense because the sales have gone up a little bit through this run, is they're pulling in, like, you have Captain Marvel turns evil, but not really, and defeats all the Avengers, and it's all a trick. And then Captain Marvel goes to another dimension and meets, different versions of characters. And then she goes to a different dimension, meets different versions of characters. And then in April, it looks like she's going to learn magic so she can bridge that weakness. But the problem with that is, have they really put forward that Captain Marvel had a weakness to magic? Like, I don't think, like, the solicitation's like, she's finally going to stop this chink in her armor. It's like, but you haven't established that she's weak to magic, really. But okay. Anyway, I don't know. It's that title confuses me a bit. I'm guessing you're not reading Captain Marvel.
No. I can't stand Captain. I didn't like Carol Danvers when she was written well.
Okay.
So I was like, wait, you're going to take this character that never. I didn't get this. When I say I didn't like her, it wasn't that I hated her and had a vendetta. It was just, I just didn't care. I was like, whatever. I was not a fan. And I always thought, hey, it makes sense that she doesn't have a series. I mean, yeah, she had a Miss Marvel series off it, for a while, but she was never meant to really be an A-list character. And so when Marvel took her and said, oh, we're going to prop her way up, put her on this pedestal, make her the new Captain Marvel, and we're going to, put Kelly Sue DeConnick, and I was like, okay. And they were just forcing the triangle through the square hole, just pounding. And I was like, I wasn't interested before, and now I'm less. If you're going to take a character like that, again, undersell it. Go find some really creative writer with a vision, and just let them do their thing to it without hyping it all up.
Mm-hmm.
Let word of mouth start spreading, and then once the momentum is on an upswing, then you start promoting it, kind of like what DC did with White Knight, the original White Knight. Right? When that book came out, it was just sort of like, hey, there's a new book. It's White Knight. It's a miniseries. It's a different take on Batman.
Yeah.
It's got this guy, Sean Gordon Murphy. He's done some stuff for us. He's got some cool art. Check it out. Right? And people, word of mouth was like, oh my God, have you read this? White Knight is amazing. It's amazing. And about halfway through that series, DC started being like, have you checked out White Knight? They were like,
yeah.
And then once that momentum's up and you already have the fans cheering for the book, then you can jump on. But if you start cheering for the fans before they're sold, I think you pointed this out on one of your streams where people, it's their natural inclination to be like, reject.
Yeah,
reject.
people don't like to be told
what
to do. They don't tell somebody. But actually, you bring up a really good point, because I think that comics is one of those industries where people tend to they'll do the marketing for you. Like, the fans get very invested into promoting for you. And so your better strategy is kind of always to go in quieter, to figure out what the fans are going to run with, and then, or what's going to get that buzz, and then you magnify it. Then you amplify that praise, and you save some money, and you're more likely to hit the mark on marketing. I don't know. That's interesting.
I think Marvel and DC should really start tapping more people like us, and I don't necessarily mean directly us, but YouTubers and this whole social media thing. Because look, I understand comics don't make enough money for you to run TV commercials and do all that. That's expensive marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But what's not expensive marketing is throwing out preview copies to people who are doing YouTube channels for free, like doing stuff like giving them some insider stuff, like, hey, maybe we can have a creator come on your show and do an interview and things like that. Like, if you start working with the community wants to work back with you. Even though I'm a very salty son of a bitch, like, on my stuff, I am. That's just my take. That's just what I do. Not everyone's going to gravitate towards it, and I understand. But I want to like comics. I want them to be good. I'm not salty because I just want to be a hater. I'm kind of a snob. I realize that only 5% is going to be really good. And that's what I go. Some people are like, I don't care. I like lots more stuff, and that's cool too. But Marvel could win me over, not necessarily win me over, like become a shill, but I'd be more than happy to promote. Look, I already say Daredevil's the best book at Marvel, right? So if you're Marvel, look, I may hate all the other stuff you do, but I love Daredevil. So why don't you throw me a preview copy of Daredevil, because you know I'm probably going to say good things about it. And if now you've earned some goodwill, and now I'm more inclined to even do more and maybe put a little more effort into it, and you start winning more. Because I could easily just not do a video on Daredevil. I don't have to, like I just do videos on whatever I feel like it. But I would be a little bit more obligated. Anyways, I'm going in the weeds here, but people like you find different YouTubers do different things well, and just start tapping that and start.
I think so.
Please talk to them and say, hey, what can we do to help you guys do what you do? What suggestions do you have for us to sell the books? I think that shows goodwill to the entire community.
Yeah, sure.
And then people like us go, hey, Marvel's showing a lot of goodwill. We echo that goodwill. We start talking to people who are listening to us and say, hey, guys, Marvel's showing us all this goodwill. It carries on. And then fans go, hey, Perch said Marvel's carrying goodwill. I like Perch. I'm going to check out more Marvel.
It's funny because most people in this new marketing would be happily review this stuff forever for free if you gave them comps, or frankly, if you even just were nice to them. Most people, that's the thing about comic fans, is I don't think it takes that much to win comic fans over. It's just, but it also doesn't take very much to make them angry. So it's a fine balance. I do very much like Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel, always have. I really loved what they did with her in Avengers. We've talked about this many times before, but I think what her arc in the Avengers when she was introduced was really well put together, and I love the dynamic of what they did. I've gotten to the questions better than last week, but I'm still doing a kind of shitty job. But I do like the art in My Hero Academia. For the person who asked that, I think it's nice and detailed and good. What is this? I seem to recall that Marvel Disney felt the comic book promotion during Iron Man was a failure, and they dropped it after that. I'm not sure what you're referring to here, but
I think he's talking about the movie.
It's either a movie or the comic that's on the screen right now. So I apologize. I will answer your question as soon as I figure it out. And then people are saying we should do drunk comic history. Yeah, that kind of is when Joe and I are on the channel. Just that's kind of every Friday we do drunk comic history. Although the challenge of reading a key lime flavored rum is that this is not a drink you get drunk on.
Oh no, don't get drunk on drinks like that.
Good not. I really like my wife makes margaritas that are incredible. Like she is by far the champion of anything I've met, but she makes them crazy strong, and like you can get just super hammered almost immediately there. So I love that. At any rate, yeah, Friday night stream, yeah, Joe. But again, Ash has been doing a great job. I love these conversations. They're very good. And I love that Ewok cover of just very proud Ewok. That's what do. Screw you, fans. We're going Ewok.
It is a cool Ewok cover, actually. I really like that. What I lack in Joe's informative knowledge, I try to make up in very strong opinions.
There you go. No, I always love having you on. I've always loved it. Like I've had Larry on, I've had Robert on. I have lots of good people. I love the chats, and there's so many more that I want to get to. Just please, if I don't answer your email right away, it's because I suck, not because you're bad. I do absolutely suck at answering email. Terrible. And you can tell I'm getting old because I start inserting the word "the" in front of things. Like I'm not answering the email. I don't know when that happened in my life, but damn it. That Spider-Man cover is beautiful, by the way. So there you go.
I was just typing that. Yeah, I agree. My two favorite covers on that screen are the Star Wars and the Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yes, we will play games like Who Paid Thugs to Beat Up Al Pilgrim. There's so many. The funny thing is, you'll know the channel's over, or that somehow Joe and I have won the lottery, and we're just going to move on with our lives and get out of comics completely, because we will come on and do the most insane burning the bridge behind us video of all time.
You're such a liar. If you win the lottery, you're just gonna expand the channel into new horizons. You'll just be able to do this full time.
I'll start publishing comics as well.
You'll probably build a studio just so you can make videos. Like yeah, you love comics.
I
Like you
do.
do this out of a passion, not because you're making money. And like that's the thing that I always try to share to people when they like criticize. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
dude,
love
Perch is
comics.
not this guy's. He just likes talking about comics, and you're not always going to have the same opinion. It's fine. It's no one's getting hurt, so it's all good.
No, it's yeah, it's fun stuff. Get Ryan back on. Ryan would like to hear this. Ryan is I think we were meant to record the Superman 3 retrospective, which is our favorite movie. So there you go. I don't know if I'm burning pitches with it. Hopefully we're not burning pitches. I have not gotten. So the weird part is I get tons of weird hate mail, but none for the pitches videos. Nobody has ever complained about those, which is super. Well, no, I sorry, I take that back. There were some people who came in who thought they were serious. Like I had somebody who's super angry about like the Punisher ideas, and it's like how I always wonder, like, did you just read the title of the video? Because there's no way you could have listened to that Punisher pitch video and believe that was real. Like,
oh man, those are funny. You guys sometimes some of your pitches, man, you guys get on a roll, and I'm just laughing. And I wish I was like, I want to be on one of these, and I'm like, nah, I don't have the creativity. My pitches would be dumb.
oh
But
no,
they're some of them are hilarious.
oh I City of Bruce, man, we got to. So if I win all the money, I'm making City of Bruce, and then I'll get sued by DC, but it'll be worth it. I'll just pay the lawyers, and it'll be out there and tough. It's going to happen anyway. And the breweries would win. I actually don't drink nearly as much as people think. I thought Monica was being introduced in WandaVision. Yes, Monica Rambeau is introduced in WandaVision. She showed up for the first time in episode 2. The episode 3 that dropped today has a lot more Monica Rambeau in there. So that's Monica, the only black character. Well, no, the only black female character in that show is Monica. So there you have it. She is in that show. Technically, she was introduced in Captain Marvel just as a kid, but yeah, anyway. Has Perch received any official contact from Marvel and DC over the sales analysis videos? Yes. I'll just leave it there.
You made an interesting comment about that actually on one of your previous videos that I watched. That I was like, I think I was driving in the car listening. I listen to a lot of stuff like what you do because it's not very visual, and I was like, I heard that I was like perked up. I was like, what? I was shocked. My mouth dropped.
I've heard from quite a few people on those sales videos, and that's that. Anyway, interesting. Crazy times. Yeah. We're nearing the end here. By the way, I know Ash, you were kind of it's 6:30. You're good to go for a couple more minutes, or you?
Yeah, we're in the final stretch.
We're in the final stretch.
That's fine.
Some more nice covers here. We need to do the retrospective on the Marvel Wolfman Teen Titans because that was such a fun run as well. This was when Legion of Superheroes led with the ass right on the cover there. That's some good stuff too. But there you go.
Always lead with the ass. I love that Titans cover in the lower right.
Yeah, that was just a good run. I also like this was the Green Lantern where John Stewart was just screwing stuff up. It was not fair, as I recall, and I'm trying to remember. I think in this issue, like he either got there too late or there's some damage done, and then Stewart came up and he kind of got blamed for it, and the astronauts were all dicks and be like, "Get out of here!" And he was just trying to get them to safety, and they're like, and it was all like that. They didn't throw out any racist stuff, but the astronauts were it was kind of in there too. It was some, I don't know if anybody read that comic, you can tell me if my memory's right, but it was a very quirky, weird issue of Green Lantern right there. Anyway, always good stuff. Next week, I think I'll try to get some more manga and what was released in Times as well, because there's some cool stuff coming up. I'm still surprised at the amount of people who've never read anything by Rumiko Takahashi at all. That's always kind of crazy to me. But anyway, here you go. We're in that final stretch where I'm just rambling on as fast as possible, and just give me the hook. It is. I don't think DC has reprinted Infinity Inc. actually, but there you go. The Outsiders cover is interesting. Oh yeah, a little bondage. Never hurt anybody. That's she will kill Halo once. She has killed Halo once, and she's back to do the job right. Yeah, that's right, with a whip. Anyway, It is. If anybody has some questions, throw them in the chat right now. It's. I do appreciate, by the way, everybody who's come and joined lately. Some good stuff are coming, and I just, yeah. I mean, Ash, I wanted to. Any thoughts you have? Anything you're reading? Stuff you want to pass along, kind of in the last minutes?
Well, I think the stuff that I want to pass along is Ed Brubaker, but I think I talked enough of that. Honestly, guys. Find that out if you care at all to watch. I do a couple of shows that I just started up recently. I do one with Skip and Tosh called the Unnamed Indie Comic Show, and we feature some. Oops, that's my phone. Thought that was off. And it's it features. We just try to talk about indie books because we realize that not enough indie books get attention. We don't talk about every book. It's a fan cast, so it's not a critical. We're not saying like this book sucks. This book's like. And it right now it features 2 current titles, Decorum and Firepower, because they're both 2 books that Skip and I both love. We read the issue that comes out that month. We do a detailed like not analysis, but just, you know, like it's, if you ever watch things like The Talking Dead or any of these like fan cast shows of your favorite TV show, it's meant to be like that. And we're also going through the entire set volume trades of East of West.
Nice.
And I'm getting to experience that, and it's meant to be kind of a little bit of a cross of a fan cast, a little bit of a cross of like a book club, because we invite you to like, hey, read this. We're going to talk about it in 2 weeks, cool. So everyone can get together. And then because we can't cover everything, and I'm huge on the Brubaker, got a spin-off show called The Criminal Cast. I just did our 2nd episode last night, featuring the 1st volume of Criminal. And we basically go through any of the independent books that Ed Brubaker did. Most notably, he's done most Criminal, but we did Reckless on the 1st episode. And we just the same type of thing, but it's just all based on that book. And if you guys are reading those books, come check those out, see what we thought. Join us live so you can talk like this, put in your feedback and comments, and have that water cooler talk.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I would say if you're a Marvel, DC, big 2 kind of guy, completely understand. Try to branch out just a little bit. I'm not saying abandon Marvel and DC, but try to have a couple of indie books on your list. Find, you know, just to have a little bit of variety. And some books that I think are really worth your attention are Ascender, and I think Firepower, because they're very approachable. Firepower is a fun adventure book. It's I don't want to say it's simple because that makes it sound demeaning. But it's simple in the fact that it's not a complex, super deep plot. You know, it's like what a Spider-Man book would be. It's that way. It's just meant to be, got some basic villains. You got a lovable hero. It's written by Robert Kirkman of Walking Dead fame. It's a very, very fun book. Yeah, it is. Everyone I've gotten to try it is like, oh yeah, I like this. And then Ascender is essentially, if you like Star Wars, I would recommend Ascender. It's like that. It's a sci-fi fantasy about a motley cast of characters. There's a little bit of mysticism in it, like that Star Wars has. They go on these crazy adventures. There's a big overarching threat to the galaxy the characters are dealing with, and there's a lot of banter and fun. And you just, if you like Star Wars, the original Star Wars, you love the characters, you just want to follow. And it's got beautiful painted, watercolor painted. Sorry, it's penciled art by Justin Nguyen, and the coloring is like a watercolor coloring. It's a little bit different than your normal stuff, but it's good. Anyways, it's really
good stuff. Ascender has great art.
So I could go on about more stuff, but just for the sake of brevity, I'll stop there. Give you guys some stuff to think about, and put what you guys love in the chat, because I discover new things all the time when I see people recommending. So
yeah, there's that. So thank you for that. Yeah, people definitely need to check out, and please do branch out. I think it's okay to take that step. And to the question that's on the screen right now, how do you get into some of these older runs? It's a good question. If you're comfortable with digital, the various unlimited packages can get you there pretty well. If you're not, then some comic shops, some larger comic shops, have a lot of the very deep discounted trades and omnibuses from way back. And one of the kind of cool things you can do, I'm just surprised, is you can go to, and I don't know, on the West Coast, there's something called Half Price Books. I don't know if it exists all over the country or not, but you can go in there with like $20 and they will have, trades that are just dirt cheap, where they're just moving that stuff out. Ollie's is another place that often has really cheap trades. And you can pick up, these big editions that are, give you a ton of comics in a very cheap format, in a very low quality format, but it allows you to try a bunch of stuff very, very cheap, kind of figure out some things you like. The other option, of course, is to just find somebody you trust who gives you, steers you right on comics and kind of go in there. I think if you can identify comics you like if you say, I know that I like, Claremont 80s X-Men. It's like, okay, well then here's a bunch of things that can branch. You should try Wolfman's Teen Titans. You should try My Hero Academia. These are going to give you that same kind of feel. There's almost always something you should do. I definitely need to do more videos on manga. I was kind of hoping to be back in Japan by now and do a video from there. I want to do more proof videos where I turn on the camera and get look, I'm in one of these creepy basement stores in Akihabara. Probably won't put that one up. But anyway, there's a lot of good stuff that you could pick up there. A lot of good place. Second and Charles discount trades. Try and find some of those. The trade collections are in black and white. It's a great way to just start getting through these. So definitely I will do more manga and more of all this stuff. I keep promising I need to do more indies. I've been moving. If you haven't noticed, so some of the videos that are going up right now are, I'll let you in on the secret. I recorded them like a month ago. And so I'm buying myself some time because I got really wrapped up in this 2019 numbers vid. And it's just taking a lot of time. I'm building a lot of things so I can import the numbers and the graphs automatically spit out. So it'll save me work in the long run. But anyway, that's what's going on. It's just been a busy week. So lots of good stuff. I will not do any cosplay, I promise. Nobody's going to see me in a Pooh Bear costume.
Oh man, I'm out. No cosplay?
No, not for me. No. Sadly, no. But some good stuff. Lots of good European comics. Yeah, there's everything. I need to start going through and deleting some of the old videos. People can't find anything on my channel at this point because there's just too much crap in there. Oh well. Anyway, well, folks, so first of all, thank you everybody who came. I hope you had a good time. I had a great time talking with you, Ash. Thank you so much.
Well, I know it's like the thing to say when you're on a show. I'm happy to be here. But honestly, I love being here. You're really fun to talk to. The audience that you have is great, even though some of them busted my balls.
That's what makes it fun.
It makes right. I know that it's interesting conversation. It's exactly what you promote it to be, like sitting around the comic book shop talking comics, and I have a good time. And I'm looking forward to hopefully having being back when your next earliest opportunity.
Absolutely, definitely we'll have you back. And I just need to do a better job of scheduling all that stuff up. I hope you like what's coming out over the next few weeks, and I guarantee there's some surprises coming your way. So I hope you enjoy it and. Have fun out there. It feels like there's some other little thing. I don't know how to end anything. Oh, if you enjoyed the whole thing and you feel like liking the video, I'm supposed to say that, or YouTube actually pulls your contract. You're always supposed to pimp this stuff. So if you want to hit like, thank you very much. If you don't want to hit it, that's okay too. I'm just glad you're here. And yeah, thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, hit the like, guys. It costs you nothing.
There you go. All right, take it easy.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.